I'm just going to do this one first. We are live. Hang 1 second, guys. Hey, everybody. How are you? We are live. My name is Ian McDonald, the Sick Drummer Magazine. And to say I am humbled. Oh, 1 second. That was slick. Little delay issue there. Sorry. We're back. I'm excited and humbled, honored. We've done a lot of these roundtables, and all of them have been special. But to me, this one is more special. I haven't seen 3 out of 4 of these guys in a long time, and legend status all around. Thank you very much for working with me over the past few months to put this together. We're joined by Mr. Kevin Talley, Mr. Shannon Lucas, Mr. John Merryman, and Mr. Alan Cassidy. Man, thank you guys so much. How's everybody been doing, man?
Good.
Excellent.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Nice.
Pulling our lives together.
To start this one off, I'm going to show a couple things that are special, as well as this episode is special. One of them, recently, Derek Roddy and Gus Rios have put together a video in Sean Reinert's memory where they had gotten a bunch of Dirk Verburen helped, with the family retrieve a bunch of snare drums from Sean's house, and they were able to get them back to TAMA, who helped box them up and pack them. And then they just did a video with Jason Goebel and Santiago Dobles down in Florida, talking about each of the 4 snare drums. We all contributed. It'll be coming out soon. And one of the things that ties into that, which I put in that video, which I want to show you guys as well as whoever's watching. Back, John, when I was in your kitchen, when the Sick Drummer magazine was conceived, I mean, we had Sick Drummer, but in your kitchen at a barbecue after the drum off I held in 2008, I believe, came up with the name Sick Drummer magazine,
about right.
Hanging out. And I had given away the last of 3 cymbals at that event that Sean gave me way back and said, give them away. I got more. We'll hook up and we'll get more. We'll get more. Unfortunately, that never happened. So a couple months ago, I was sitting around wondering where the cymbals were, because I don't know where 2 of them went, but one of them, the guy Evan from the Blast-Off competition, won it. So I sent him an email. A few days later, he's like, yeah, I've still got it, man. It's hanging behind me, my drum set in my room. It's been there 15 years since I won it. I was like, awesome. I can relax. I know where one is. And about 3 weeks go by, 2 weeks go by, and I get an email back from Evan, and he said, my wife and I were sitting around talking about the cymbal, and we decided that we want to send it back to you because it should be with you, who was good friends with him, and not on my wall. So 16 years after I gave it away, this made it back to my office. It's the 16-inch Zildjian K that Sean used on the Human record, 1991, signed by the man. 16 years later, made its way back to my house. And I just wanted to share it with everybody because it's really special.
Oh, that's
That's
crazy.
awesome. Shout out to that guy.
Yeah, legendary. I sent him back something cool in return. A kindly bent to Freya's limited edition score signed by Sean Malone and Masvidal. I've got 2 of them. I was like, you have this. And he hung it on the wall where this was behind his drums. The second thing I want
to...
What's that?
I thought you said a bag of Fritos at first.
You hungry, John?
Yeah, that'll come around. That's coming soon.
The second thing here is later on tonight in this episode, I'm going to be picking a winner. I've been streaming drums on Twitch lately, and we've had a little smaller cymbal from Sentent, up for grabs, and people have entered to win it. It's a Tang Series 8-inch with the Sick Drummer Magazine logo laser etched into it. And we will be picking a winner for that sometime later on in the interview here tonight. And then if you don't follow Sick Drummer Magazine on Twitch, if you don't have an account, sign up for one for free. And you can see when I go live for interviews and drumming. And this Matt Byrne printed Evans head from Hatebreed will be the next item we give away July 1st.
Nice.
So there's my little plugs. So we'll start this off by what I do usually in the beginning of all the episodes, and that's we'll go right to Kevin.
You go right to Kevin in every episode?
Every episode.
Oh, sick.
You know, it's funny. I have a really good friend named Kevin, and you look and sound just like him, and you're funny, and he's hilarious. Just tell us a little bit about I know you're all over the internet, and people have seen you on tons of interviews and whatnot, but give us a little bit about growing up and, you know, how old you were when you first were exposed to music, maybe in your household, through family, through friends, through relatives. What gave you that itch to, get into music and what you were exposed to? Just take it away.
I would listen to like classic country and oldies. You know, my parents were older. Hey, I need to be able to see you guys.
Sorry.
You know, my
sleeping.
parents were older, and I just listened to country and oldies and stuff like that. But my brother was 5.5 years older than me, so he of course started getting into metal, and then he got me into like Metallica and just all the typical Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax, you know, the typical, all that stuff. And then I started getting into heavier stuff, and I guess, you know, by the time I was in middle school, I was listening to Suffocation and Cannibal Corpse and Morbid Angel and Carcass and, you know, just that kind of stuff. And then I as soon as I turned 16, I was driving, of course, and I went to some local death metal show, and I was just walking around like super skinny, 16-year-old white boy in San Antonio, which is like all brutal Mexicans with long hair and beard looking like Shannon, you know, except just big, scary Mexicans. And I was just like, oh, shit, you know, I'm just young as shit. And I'm just asking everybody in the place, there's probably only like 100 people there, asking everybody in the place, like, does anybody need a drummer? And of course, like every single person I talked to said, hell yeah, we need a drummer. So then I got to a local band called Deity, and we played a few times. Actually, I met Merryman when I was in Deity. That's a long story, but at the DMZ, I saw him like, I don't even know what year it was, probably like 95 or 96. One of the first death metal drummers I ever saw, like from behind the kit, and he crushed it. It was so sick. Anyway, and then I was just, I was in that band for a while. We opened up for Cannibal Corpse, and, you know, I saw a lot of great bands in that time, around the 96 era. Like Dave Culross came through with Malevolent Creation and played that same club, the DMZ. You know, a lot of great bands. And then Dying Fetus came through, you know, and they saw me play in my local band. And then they were like, man, we need a drummer. And I was like, sick. Yeah, I'll move up to Maryland and join Dying Fetus. Sounds great. So I made a little VHS tape like this big with my brother holding the camera. And I sent in a VHS tape of me playing some Dying Fetus songs, and then I got into Dying Fetus, and then I did a whole bunch of shit. You know, it was fun. But John, I couldn't see you there for a while, but I know that you remember that.
I remember that show. You were the only reason we played that show. We were going to cancel. I think you were one of like 2 people.
Dude, it's just so important to my life that you guys played. So I'm grateful that you did. And I still remember like just sitting exactly where I sat and watching you play. And I was like, motherfucker. Can I say that on here?
Yeah, you just did.
Yeah.
I was like, man, this guy's crushing it right now. And I can't remember if I already had Axis pedals I think
No,
I
you
did.
didn't.
I didn't.
You
Okay.
didn't yet, because we were talking about them after the show.
Oh, okay.
I remember you bought them.
Yeah.
And then I remember seeing you later when you were with Dying Fetus, and I was asking because your tension was really different on them, and you were like, "I figured that they came preset, so I just been jamming them the way they are." And it was like, "Wow, that's pretty good to just adjust to whatever that quick on the fly." But
Yeah, I didn't even know that they were adjustable. You know, I mean, these are the things that us old guys just had to deal with. Not Merryman. He knows to adjust the tension. But dude, I mean, here I am, like 18 years old, and dude, like my beater is still like 45-degree angle. You know, like I never knew to change that. And then one day, Culross was like, "Yeah, just set it a little closer if you want." I'm like, "What?" And, I need an Allen key to. And you remember those fucking Axis pedals were so fragile. It's like, oh, don't over tighten it. I'm sorry. Axis pedals are fantastic, but you know you don't want to over tighten that.
they're touchy here and there. Yeah.
Shannon's like, you said you weren't gonna say anything stupid, Kevin.
Too late. You got that out of the way.
Dude, right. I don't know. It was like 99 or 2000 or 2001. I went to the Axis pedal factory, you know, and that's before, you know, that was when there wasn't that much action going on, you know, not like now or even like, and I did this thing. I did this video. Kevin visits the Axis pedal factory. It was awesome. I don't know. I thought I put it on YouTube, but I don't know. I don't think it is. But anyway.
When you said motherfucker, you actually looked and sounded like Deadpool.
Oh, excellent.
That's awesome. That's cool.
So did I answer the question?
Not at all, but it doesn't matter.
Great.
How old were you when you first got into music, and what was it in your house? What kind of music did you listen to, or your parents listened to, or whoever raised you listened to in the household you grew up in? Aside from, was it country? Was it just all country you mentioned, or
it was just old country and whatever's on the radio. Like my parents weren't really into music. Like I know like other people are like, yeah, my dad was into Zeppelin and all this cool shit, and like I was like, my parents like listened to just whatever's on the radio, and that was it. My brother is the one that got me into Slayer and Metallica and cool music, you know. And then my friends at middle school, they were like, dude. Well, actually, my friend Orlando was like, man, I was at the mall and I saw this sick ass album cover, Pierce from Within, and I just bought it. That was it. He just bought it just based on the album cover, and we found out about Pierce from Within.
That's pretty awesome.
But then he started buying a bunch of Roadrunner record stuff, and you know, this is like old school shit. Like guys would buy stuff based on. Well, I mean, people do that now, but you know.
Thank you.
Back then, we didn't have internet.
Yeah, I used to base it all off of thank you lists.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I remember that. I forgot all about that. Yeah, we want to thank Cephalic Carnage, Skinless. You know.
I was gonna ask, were you guys like physically passing around the CD at that point?
Oh yeah.
To be able to hear it?
Couldn't even.
Dubbed cassette.
We couldn't even like
tape trading.
We couldn't even duplicate it. So yeah, we were passing around the disc, and I believe it was a tape back then.
Yeah, I had a lot of dubbed tapes back in like the 90s.
High speed dubbing. It's the only way to do it.
Making mixtapes for the road trip using your MapQuest.
Dude, actually, I just moved a bunch of my shit out of storage, and I found some old Dying Fetus tapes of us like recording, and I just hit record on a boombox, you know, like let's record the rehearsal. And it's like Dying Fetus, Bless His Basement, you know, 1998 March or whatever. So that's how we used to do pre-production.
Yeah, right.
My first local band, we used to my guitar player had a room like slightly above the basement, and there was a vent that was shared by his room and the basement. We would put a SM58 like hanging down the vents, and that's how we would record my drums for like any of the recording stuff. Like there was no demos. It was like, this is what we're putting on MySpace. And it was like one microphone with drums in a room, and that's what you got, you know. And then they overdubbed the guitars and shit. And yeah, it was rough back before the availability of like all, you know, this technology and hardware.
Back up 1 second. So the control room was here, and they sent the cable through the air ducts?
Yeah. Like literally from his computer down the air duct to the basement where the drums were, and then we just put the drums close by and got some solid reverb. You know,
where are we going to set the drums up? I don't know. Where's the cable going to come in?
Yeah. I mean, thank God we were that smart, because we were a bunch of like 15, 16-year-olds. Like, could have just left it in some stupid part of the basement and been like, I don't know. I mean, we're still 25 feet away from the mic, but you can hear it. So yeah,
that's black metal production level right there.
Yeah,
exactly.
The looser, the better.
Yeah, but we wanted to have pro ass shit, not the you know, super necro sound.
Well, before we move on to Shannon, some of you know Kevin from Fetus or Misery Index. He's also played with a ton of other bands, including but not limited to Battlecross, Cal Decap, Red Chord, Hate Eternal, Chimera, Decrepit, Doth, 6 Feet Under, Suffo, Feared, Silencer, as well as a Slayer audition, which we maybe will touch on that a little bit later. But for now, Shannon, why don't you give us a bit of background about your beginnings in all of this?
Kevin's a tough one to follow because he's literally played with every band that all of us have been in.
Yeah,
at one point or another. So I grew up in a small town, and there's not really a scene. I'm back here where I grew up. There's not really a scene here for really anything. The only thing that does well is like local cover bands, you know. So there's a bunch of those, and they're pretty good. But as a kid, there were no places to play. There were very few people into metal, let alone wanted to play, you know, things like Slayer or whatever. I kind of got into metal pretty early. I was probably in like 6th grade, you know, when I got like really my first like Discman for Christmas, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't. A lot of people probably didn't experience Discmans, but you had to carry them very carefully and level. And if you even walked funny, they would skip. But I got my first CD player for Christmas in like 6th grade, and I got a stack of CDs. And this is mid-'90s, early to mid-'90s, 94-ish, 95-ish maybe. And so I'm trying to like – basically the stack of CDs I got was like just all over the place. It's whatever was popular in the mid-'90s. So there's like things from like grunge to like Pantera, Far Beyond Driven. So I got Far Beyond Driven in 6th grade. And of course, every kid my age at that time was trying to watch Beavis and Butthead if their parents would allow it. And I was finding a lot of music because of that. I was, you know, the show, you get little clips of videos and stuff. And then, you know, there was Headbangers Ball. That was like kind of a real cool thing. And it was really tough to find music. Like, you could do the record store thing where you just went on, you looked at the cover, and if it was cool looking, you'd take a chance and buy it. And that's definitely how I found some albums. I just took a shot and you know, bought it based on the album cover, and it was cool. Or if you had, you know, I didn't have an older brother who listened to metal or anything, but I had my buddy I played music with from a young age had an older sister who liked some cool stuff. But I was about 12 and I started playing guitar. And I took lessons for a couple of years, and I loved it. That was like my first love. And I was taking like band in school simultaneously, and I ended up playing drums in school, and it kind of just came natural. Like I could just hear it and mimic it, you know. And guitar is so much more of a puzzle box for me. And so I started playing in like little garage bands and stuff from a young age. And then by the time I was like 15, I had discovered things like Slayer, and like that was like, you know, I grew up in a household where half my family listened to like country, and the other half, you know, my dad, he was like into like Southern rock, you know, and stuff like that. So he had he had some pretty cool stuff. Like his like little cassette box in his truck was pretty rad. And I remember he had the Metallica's Black Album in there. So even as a kid, I got to hear at least the Black Album. Now we're not talking like Master Puppets, but still at a young age exposed to like, you know, that level of, you know, metal. So it didn't take long for me to really start to gravitate towards that stuff. And by like 15, I was jamming with this guy who was like a little older than me. And it kind of went on that kind of curve. Like I just kept playing with people that were older and older. But we were both playing guitar, and we couldn't find a drummer. And he said, you know, hey man, you can play these songs. You can play this stuff. Like I had a kit and I had a double pedal and everything. And he was like, why don't you go play drums until we find a drummer? And I was like, man, I don't want to be a drummer in a band, you know? But I did it anyways. And then because I was playing all the time, it was like, you know, I just started getting better. And then it just kind of became my thing. And I realized like, if I'm going to play music at all, like this is probably it, you know? So it just kind of escalated until like, I found myself at like 19, 20 years old. I had moved to Richmond, Virginia because there's a big music scene there. I knew that if I stayed in my small town, it wasn't going to happen for me with music. So I moved to Richmond, and that's obviously there's a lot of bands from there. You know, Lamb of God's from there, Guar, Half a Darkest Hour back in the day was from there, and so forth. And as soon as I got there, I found myself in like 2 bands, and one of them was like a death metal band, and I barely knew what I was doing at that time. And then the other band was a Guar side project with the late Corey Smoot, who was Flatus for years, and that was an interesting project. And we got to open up a bunch of Guar shows. So my first like real decent sized show was opening for Guar. And I remember just feeling like, I want to do this like all the time, you know, it's like a drug, you know? And the sad reality was as long as Guar was going to be a band, it wasn't going to happen for us either. They were just too busy, and that was priority number 1 for him. But that's when I met, I opened up a few shows, and it was like Fetus, All That Remains, and Guar. And this is like when Longstreth was filling in for Fetus. So this is actually when I met John. And we did a handful of the shows, and that's how I met the All That Remains guys. And people have heard that story, but I ended up joining them and toured with them, did an album. And then, you know, we had a couple differences, and I decided I wanted to go on my way and do something else, and, you know, found my way into Black Dahlia, and then just the rest was history. But it's funny, the ties, like when you meet people, when you start touring and you're influenced by those people and you pick up a lot of things. So like Kevin watching John and learning about access pedals and stuff from John, I had the same thing with Kevin. My first 2 tours were with Kevin, you know, and I already knew who he was, you know, and so I was like pumped. Like it was it Sounds of the Underground? And he were with Chimera, and it's funny, man. I have so many memories from that. Like the first time Kevin actually spoke to me, I was a child still. I was a kid, you know, just a fan. I'm like my first real big tour, and I'm just a fan of all these guys. And I have this like laundry basket with a Suffo shirt sitting on top, and Kevin walks by. He's like, oh, cool shirt. I played for them. And I was like, yeah, I know.
I know. What else is new? Kevin bragging.
The laundry list of bands, no pun intended.
That's a testament, though. You know what I mean? And so, like, Kevin was, like, super kind and would, like, we became friends on that tour. And then we did a whole nother tour back to back. And, like, Kevin gave me, like, friendly advice, which I remember. I will always remember, like, little bits of advice, you know, like, hey, your snare hand's chopping, straighten it out. Or, like, you know, hey, maybe don't rim shot. You're doing a bunch of blasts. You want it to sound nice and even. So, like, I broke myself of rim shotting because of Kevin, you know, and I played it wasn't my first set of access pedals that I played, but it was the first ones I felt comfortable on with triggers. I had to play Kevin's kit like 3 nights of a tour. There was like not enough room for a kit in front of his, and there was no place to strike his kit because it was like, you know, he had the full big metal kit, you know. I had this teeny little, you know, 4-piece kit, and I had to just jump on it and play it as it was. Like I couldn't really move anything, but it didn't matter. Like I just felt really comfortable on it.
Don't move my shit.
Pretty much. He was like, don't touch anything, you know. No, he wasn't like that. Yeah.
What kind of kit was it? Do you remember?
Pedals, everybody on the tour had to play on Kevin's kit, and everyone hated it. Like nobody could play on his pedals because access pedals are different.
Yeah.
But the way he had his set up, I was coming from Iron Cobra, and it just didn't feel bad. Like it felt comfortable. Like they were set up to play more heavy with power. And I sat on and was just like, this is awesome. You know, I could hear everything. And like, yeah, that was it. As soon as that tour was over, like I contacted Axis and was like, I gotta get a set. Like, and I knew everybody that was using them at the time because they were like all like my favorite drummers, you know, like I was going on the Sick Drummer site and learning about bands from drummers like that were on the site and going, okay, this guy's on here. I'm gonna go check out his band. And at that time it was like very nostalgic when I think back about it, like the Unique Leader, you know, like late 90s, early 2000s era, like all those just super sick drummers. You didn't know what they were doing and how they were doing it, but you knew they were playing Axis pedals and you were like, that's the ticket, you know? So it's an interesting connection.
What was that first kit? Do you remember what it was that when you said that you didn't want to play drums, but you said I didn't play it anyway?
Dude, it was a problem because it was like, Chimera had like this huge pearl cage. I mean, it was like this whole thing. And I married into it. I mean, it wasn't my kit, you know, it was just something that I came into and that's what it was. And it was such a fucking pain in the ass, that kit.
It was a nice kit.
it was. And it sounded good. It was like an old pearl, you know, something or other. But,
man, you blended on that tour. You had mics and triggers on the kicks, man.
Yeah,
it sounded so
dude.
Good.
You gotta do that. You gotta have some
really good.
mics because you can't have that super compressed. Well, I mean, I guess there's all kinds of tricks now, but
yeah,
you know.
But in the DM4 era,
yeah, the D4.
That's what you were rocking at the time.
Yeah, the thud or the stab or I don't know. Holy smokes.
Well, before we move on to John, Shannon, of course, most well known for Black Dahlia and All That Remains, but he's also played in other bands like Asphalt Graves, Serpentine Dominion, The Iron Sun, War Torn, and Mens Rea. There's a couple guys in the chat that I just wanted to say hello to. One would be Angel Kate from Hammer, and Eric Schultek from Narcotic Wasteland with Dallas Wade.
Oh, so yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us.
Stoked on that.
And also, Mike Malaise is in chat as well. What's up, brother? All right, Mr. Merryman, we are on to you. Going way back. Let's hear it.
Well, I was kind of lucky because my dad's always been a guitar player, so I always grew up around music. He used to be in, you know, like southern rock bands, cover bands, and bar gigs and stuff all the time. And he bought me a guitar when I was like 10, tried to get me to play. Didn't really take. He's not a very good teacher. So, and he was like, when you see an instrument that you want to play, just let me know and I'll get it for you. And we were at a guitar shop that his buddy owned, and he had a practice pad set. It was like 11, and I was like, that's what I want. So he got me that for my 12th birthday. And let's see, a few months after that, I think he acquired a 5-piece Ludwig for me so I'd have a real kit because he saw I was a little bit serious. But my report cards were pretty bad, so he made a deal with me. Every good report card, I'd get one drum. So I went from practice pads and a snare to kick drum, snare, practice pads, and built my way up to a crappy 5-piece. And ever since I started playing, metal was probably what got me into it. You know, Anthrax and, you know, Megadeth. Slayer I wasn't too much into at first back then. I had a bunch of friends into the thrash kind of scene like that, and we started a band at, we were all about 12. We knew like little sections of every song, could never play anything all the way through. But we actually built up a rapport and set list and played our first show at 12, or 14, which was kind of cool.
Jesus.
And yeah, a bunch of local bands, but it was like 150 people at the show and in the Aslan Theater, and it was, you know, on a stage, it was real. And I just kept going with the drums, and you know, the music obviously taste got heavier and heavier as I got older. As soon as I hit high school, that's when everybody was listening to death metal and that stuff. So that's when I moved on to that. And still played pretty heavy, but I had a daughter at 16 and quit for a couple years. Got back into playing, did a couple little projects that were more of a joke than anything else. And then Steve, the guitar player for Cephalic, him and I started jamming and got really serious in direction. Just happened to end up joining Cephalic as a favor for those guys because I had kind of quit playing death metal at the time. Wanted to do like a nice funk project, kind of like Primus or something. and told him I'd do a demo and a tour. And yeah, I was in the band for 25 years. So that was kind of cool.
What about early ages? What kind of music were you exposed to?
Oh, the stuff my parents listened to, you know, they're only 17 years older than me, so they were kind of on that hippie range of music. And my dad always liked some of the tastier stuff, Al Di Meola. I remember that album a lot. Of course, Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, The Who. I'm drawing blanks on a couple. King Crimson was another one that was always played. They always took me to shows, too. I mean, I got to see Pink Floyd when I was 12. I saw Tom Petty with the Pretenders when I was 6. Saw him again when I was 9. I saw The Who when I was 14.
Man,
tons of bluegrass festivals. My dad's big time in the bluegrass industry in Colorado, and he's a really good picker. And I mean, they'd probably take me to about 50 of them a year, at least. You know, go camp out and listen to bluegrass, and everybody'd have their jam sessions around the campfires late at night. So, I mean, I grew up with music being an everyday part of the life for sure. And, you know, like I said, the 70s rock and roll, you know, tastier stuff with some of the topper players, like I said, you know, with King Crimson and things like that. My parents always had that stuff around and playing. And I've actually done a couple CDs with my dad later in my career when I was a little bit better.
I was going to ask you about that too. I was thinking I might have been confusing you with Jarvis, but I know that you had told me before you had done stuff with your dad as far as, you know, projects and whatnot. That's cool. And any parent that turns their kids on to King Crimson is a friend of mine. My kids have seen Pink Floyd twice when they were 5 and 6 the first time. So because of Sick Drummer, I mean, they've seen so much fucking music.
Oh,
it's crazy. And what's awesome is I'm going to play some videos here, but I was just thinking about this. All the videos I'm going to show are from my own YouTube, which is just awesome to me. You know, I didn't have to go look. I just grabbed from stuff that I've already filmed over the years because I've filmed all of you more than once, you know, and it's just wild to me that you're all here, and I just went and looked, and there's all the videos I needed for this episode. It's really cool. It's been 18 years, man. Sick Drummer's on 18 years, man. It's mind-blowing.
Congrats, man.
Yeah, it's cool you kept it going and built it into this. I do remember.
You know, I know Ian, you and I had texted about this, but like, there was like, to the people that weren't listening to this kind of stuff, or maybe just folks that are younger, before the internet and like social media really blew into what it is now, there was nobody really like championing like extreme drummers. Like, drum magazines were what you had, like physical magazines, and they didn't really touch, you know, metal drummers. You know, there was nobody creating a stage or putting a spotlight on anybody doing what we were doing, and the people that came before us, you know. So like, you had no idea what these folks were doing live. You know, YouTube was probably barely at its infancy, you know. So like, people didn't have the ability to film themselves live. They, you know, all phones sucked, you know, so you couldn't just like prop your phone up and film your set and then cut a piece and put it online. Most people didn't even have computers, you know. And Ian was like the dude, like it basically put the spotlight on everybody, you know what I mean? So like, most of us had zero attention, you know, from, you know, or at least notoriety as far as drummers were concerned, you know. And I don't know, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to run a site for that long, and film and edit and do all this stuff online just for the love of it, you know. So like, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jeez, I'm not crying. You're crying.
Chopping onions, bro.
Yeah.
What's up? Kale Costello from Duskwalker's also in the house here. Killer Canadian drummer. All right. That brings us to Mr. Alan Cassidy. We'll let you go ahead and give us the skinny and the background and all that shit.
So since I'm the youngin' of the group, I was not really that disconnected or had, you know, as much. I didn't have like a different upbringing from the rest of the guys. Like Shannon, I was listening to a Discman, going to the bus stop every morning, and luckily I had like the anti-skip or whatever it was that was in there, and I was making sure that I was bringing extra double A's and all that shit. But you know, when I was exposed to music, it was from the very, very, very beginning. My mom is a college graduate music performance pianist, and my dad is a doctor, but he played a lot of guitar. And when I was a baby, like, my mom was saying that I was just, you know, always doing rhythmic stuff. Like, I always had some kind of like super, super basic rhythmic feel. And I, you know, it just, I always tell people it's like drumming chose me. Like, I had no conscious involvement in the decision to be a drummer. It was just like innate. And so, you know, I would like set up my toys, I guess, when I was 2 years old and stuff, and make like little drum kits out of them. Just, I had I don't know, like a tin barn silo toy, and that was like my snare. And then I had like something else that had like a little bell. Like, we're talking like it was a baby toy, almost sort of like mousetrap kind of thing, if I remember correctly. And that was like my little cymbal. And I got a pair of drumsticks when I was 2 years old or so, if I remember correctly. And I beat on my little infant brother with them, and I got them taken away for 2 whole years. And you can only imagine where I would be if I hadn't gotten those drumsticks taken away for 2 whole years. But outside of that, the influences that I had, my dad like just listened to the Beatles obsessively. Like, that was his band. And so I listened to a lot of the early Beatles growing up, and I had a like little practice pad. I don't know how I got it or when, but that was kind of like my drum kit for the longest time. And I just took my, you know, sticks and played along, like, whenever the music was being played in our house and stuff. But yeah, I listened to a ton of Beatles, a lot of adjacent stuff, you know, like John Lennon, George, Wings, all that crap. And then I eventually, you know, busted a hole in that practice pad, and I think I got another one. I do remember like playing on some phone books and stupid stuff like that, and quickly found that they're not durable enough to play drums on. You will just wear a hole right through the middle. But like at 10 years old, I was in acting when I was a kid. I was in this, I was in a few commercials, and I lived in Southern California. So I was like in Hollywood, like doing acting and stuff. I got paid for all these like commercials, and I was in this movie called Underground Comedy Movie with Vince Offer, the fucking, you know, slap chop guy. Like, and so I got paid for all of this stuff, and I took my savings, and my mom took me to the bank and got me the money, and we went to the local drum shop, which was in Michigan. We had moved from Southern California to Michigan when I was about 8 or 9, and yeah, we took out the money and we went and bought a drum kit, and I got my first drum kit when I was 10. And then going back to the influences and stuff, my parents were very much into, like, besides the Beatles, like, it was a lot of radio stuff. Like, Kevin was saying. And but there was a lot of great shit on the radio in the 90s. Like, it was such an incredible era of just throw it at the wall and see if it sticks, and we have the money, so we don't give a fuck kind of scenario. And I miss that a lot. But it was like, I love shit like the Cardigans and the Sundays and bunch of other like pop rock related stuff. But like, yeah, I got a drum kit, and my dad's a guitar player, and so we would jam a bunch. And one of his favorite movies at the time was That Thing You Do, and so we would like jam that stuff. And then like later on, my parents got a divorce, and then my dad went through his sort of midlife crisis phase and was really into Blink-182 and Green Day and Nirvana and, the harder stuff. And I absolutely loved it because, like, I think I always gravitated toward rhythmically diverse stuff. And I also really like the fact that, Nirvana and Green Day and Blink-182, it was like they were playing faster, they were playing harder, and that was kind of my like gateway drug to find the rest of the stuff. And by the time I got to middle school, I was riding the bus, and some kid left his book of CDs on the bus, and me and my friend dishonestly picked it up and divvied up the CDs, and then went home. And some of those CDs that were in there, two of them were Slayer CDs, and it was Rain and Blood and South of Heaven. And I was like, you know what? I always hear people talk about Slayer. Let's give this a spin. And holy shit, I put in Rain and Blood, and I was like, bro, I don't know a whole lot about like any modern metal outside of my dad listening to Enter Sandman a gazillion times and never listening to the rest of the album because I don't even know if he had it. But I was like, I totally get why everybody screams Slayer at live shows now. So I was hooked on that. And then a little bit before that, actually, a friend of mine had shown me Pantera as well. And when I first heard Becoming, I was like, okay, not only is this super fucking heavy, but like the kick pattern is so fucking weird. And I was just like, wow, so there's like shit beyond Metallica. Like, this is game changing. And then going back to the CDs, we got caught by the bus driver. The bus driver was told by the kid who lost them that he had lost them, so we had to give all the CDs back. But luckily, that was at a point where we had computers that could rip CDs, so I ripped everything I needed, and I was like, oh yeah, no problem. Here you go. Here's your CDs back. Yeah, and then after that, it was, like I said, it was a gateway drug. It was just like trying to find the next heaviest, fastest stuff. And then I eventually moved to Wyoming, and it was a very, very big culture shock to move from Southern California to Detroit or the suburbs of, and then go to Wyoming and be like, holy shit, this is it. I mean, like, the town that I live in is literally like the only place that humans live in for 40 minutes in a car. And then beyond that, it's like the next smallest town. And so it was strange. And I think it was like more of a welcome thing for me, though, only because right before I moved to Wyoming, I went to super fucking rich kid yuppie school here in Michigan, and I was the super weirdo outcast. Like, and I don't think that at the time I was like dressing or listening to a bunch of crazy stuff. I was just into the crazy stuff and no one else was. And so when I went to Wyoming, I was like, okay, cool. I quickly found my people. I quickly found the people who were like really into this stuff. I had actually only decided to move to Wyoming because I broke my leg and I couldn't get on a plane to go back to Michigan comfortably anyway. And I had to get surgery and shit. So I stayed there and while I was like on crutches and, stuck recuperating, I met some people at my school who became my first local bandmates. And I was really happy about that. My doctor at the time told me, he was like, yeah, if you want to do, if you want to drum and it doesn't hurt you or do anything that physically exerts you, then play drums. Like that would probably be good physical rehabilitation. And so I went and practiced with them. We happened to have like probably one of the best guitar players in the city at that time. And I got into that band, jumped around, did a couple of other local bands. And then at that point I got to college and I was going to community college and that was in the MySpace era. And I got like, and I was going for music performance. I really wanted to play music. Like I loved what I was doing with my local band. We happened to be like one of the biggest things that happened to that city at the time. And it was the right mixture. It was like the right amount of, kids that were interested in that stuff at that time. And I think it was just exciting enough for everybody to like come out to the shows and really enjoy it. And then I got like a MySpace request when I was in the first couple of years of college, or not couple, like the first months of college, sorry. And it was from Abigail Williams. And I checked out their music and I thought it was really fucking sick. And then I was like, oh shit, they got Zach Gibson from, Miasma. Like, holy fuck. So I checked it out. I thought it was really sick. And I noticed that they didn't have a drummer on their listed people. So I hit him up and I was like, hey, could I, potentially try out if you don't have a drummer? And that started a relationship with me and Ken Bergeron from Abigail Williams. And he was kind of keeping me on the back burner. Like my skills weren't totally there. And I'm really glad I didn't get the opportunity to go play with them, because living in Wyoming was such a isolating sort of situation where it was like, I didn't know what triggers were. I didn't know like what good pedals were. I didn't know hardly half the stuff that most people in big cities with other bands, with just people who were very attuned to making music, knew at the time. And it was such a situation. It was such a learning situation for me. And but it was like my skills weren't quite there. And and I forgot to add, I tried out for the Agony scene when I was like 17.
Oh, no shit.
Oh, Brent Masters.
Yeah, man. And I tried out for the Agony scene when I was 17. And just like you, Kevin, my mom had the over-the-shoulder VHS. Yeah. And it was the only thing
Gotta get that tape.
at that time. It was like, it wasn't that long ago, but it wasn't like that long after the technological like boom of like consumer electronics and recordings and things. So yeah, I tried out for the Agony scene. I actually almost got into it, but I had one more semester of high school that I had to do before I could graduate, and they wanted to record in the fall, like November of that year. And I was like, fuck, there's no way that I can like break away from this, and I'm not gonna fucking drop out like literally when I have one more semester of high school to complete. And so just it didn't pan out. But anyway,
They're a good band.
Yeah, they were
good. I saw them in Syracuse, and the members of that band had like 14 other bands that they were in with different variances of guys from each group. One of them, I remember the name was 30 Called Arson, and they were awesome too. But sorry, go ahead.
I've never heard of that. I'm gonna have to check it out. But yeah, no, it was a really surreal thing. Like I remember I was literally talking to my girlfriend at the time in high school in my room, and I was like, "Yep, any moment I'm expecting a phone call from the Agony scene." And all of a sudden my mom walked in like 15 minutes later and was like, there's a guy named Michael Williams on the phone right now about like your video. And I was like, what the fuck? So yeah, and you know, that desperation of like living in Wyoming was so weird because it was like I was so isolated. I fucking hated the fact that I couldn't go to shows on a regular basis. Like if I lived in Colorado, you know, like I had to drive 5 hours to Denver to go see shows. And this is when I'm like 16 years old. So my mom is like not letting me go to shows. She's like, I'm not letting you go with your older friends because they're going to drink and they're going to fucking, you know, you guys are going to get into all sorts of trouble down there. And you're so far away. Yeah. I didn't get into weed till 16. I was very vehemently against it for a minute. And, but yeah, it was like, I was so bummed out that I lived in this fucking isolated area of the world, and I was like, dude, I want to play drums so bad. I want to go see these shows. I want to see these like drummers that I'm like super inspired by and stuff. And I missed out on seeing Dahlia for a number of years because of the fact that I lived so far away. And it wasn't until 2009 that I got to go see them. But anyway, trying to wrap this up. Ken Bergeron put me on the back burner. He gave me a lot of opportunities where he was like, hey, I know this band's looking for a drummer, like Fit for an Autopsy. I know that like Winds of Plague is looking for a drummer, you know, and then this band from Connecticut, The Breathing Process, is looking for a drummer. So finally, after auditioning for all those guys, I got into The Breathing Process, and they came through Wyoming, and I went and talked to him, and I got into their band. And I was with them for about, I want to say like 8 or 9 months. And then I dipped out, and it was just because of a lot of different reasons. But he ended up introducing me to some friends that I had met on the Breathing Process tour. And I got into this band that was on Rotten Records, which has like Green Jelly and you know, Dog Fashion Disco and stuff. I had already sort of known them, and they were really great people, and we did a small couple of tours together. I recorded a couple songs with them on their album. This band was called Karen Page, by the way. And then once that sort of dissolved, I did a couple of other things with the guitar players / vocalists of that band, and one of the projects was called Unbodied. We worshipped Mastodon and just other like various death metal sort of stuff, and sort of mixed the two together. And then after that, it was this brutal death metal band that we did called Infestuous, now back in the day Cryptic Abuse. And then when none of that was panning out, I got the call from Ken Bergeron, and he was like, hey, Ken Bedeni is leaving. would you want to come fill in for us? And I was like, this is the thing I've been waiting for. So I went and did that, and I was only in that for 12 months. And at the end of it, we played a show in it was the farewell tour for Abigail Williams, and at the end of that, Ryan Knight happened to be at the show and said, "Hey, Shannon is leaving the band. Can we try out your drummer?" And I was just like floored. I was like, "Are you fucking shitting me?" And it wasn't, I wasn't going to get home for 2 weeks. And I was like, dude, these guys are going to find a drummer. No problem. In that time, like, I can't believe I was even asked to do it. And at such a terrible moment in this point in time, I got home, did the tryouts. They loved it. They had me come out, try out for them in person. And I was supposed to fill in for like Sven from Aborted's band. And I canceled on them because I was like, dude, I have this huge opportunity, blah, blah, blah. And and then I got on my first tour with Dahlia, and it's been history ever since. But it was a weird time of just sort of like desperate, like, please don't let me be stuck in Wyoming. Like, I really want to go play drums. I really want to go be part of these bands, but I'm just alienated by like the distance and the place that I'm at. And like, I love the people that I know, but this just is not going to get me anywhere. And I'm very, happy and thankful that things panned out the way that they did. So sorry about that. That's my history.
No worries. Let's take a quick little break here, and we'll take a little 15-second spot from Evans Heads, who I know you endorse. So just everybody hold tight for a second. We'll be right back.
The most technically advanced drummers in the world require the most technologically advanced drumheads. Bit of a no-brainer when you think about it. In any case, we're more than happy to oblige.
I was trying to do the old Merryman pose. All right. So after that, let's go back to Kevin. I'm just going to play a song here and we'll take a little breather if anybody's got to get up or do anything. This song is from 2014. Effigy of the Forgotten. Kevin playing with Suffo. It's 4 minutes and 11 seconds.
Yeah.
So I am going to step out, and I will see you all in 4. And by the way,
I don't know how to make a pentagram.
I am
there
not.
We go. Yeah.
We're modding. We're on Twitch and YouTube at the same time tonight. I am not modding my Twitch channel, but thank you to Soli, who is my mod over in the UK, who lives up in the Highlands and has no grocery store. So I appreciate you on there modding the channel. We will see you all. And this is an older video, but I chose certain videos for certain reasons from each of these guys. Again, all these were filmed by Sick Drummer at one point or another in the last 18 years. So it's an honor for me to again play them for you guys, if you've already seen it or not. We'll be right back. 10 years ago, man.
Brutal.
Dude, I was just waiting for me to drop my stick or something. Oh, this will be funny. This will be funny. Let's get Talley to do the. We'll do the video where he drops his drumstick.
Yeah, how old were you?
Do you remember when you were playing? I was last day of tour for 6 Feet Under, and we all ran out and took all your cymbals off and replaced them with splashes.
Yeah,
everything. It was like all splashes.
That was like some.
He didn't miss one of them,
right?
Like, it was like these little 10-inch splashes, and he was like nailing them all with grabs and the whole nine. It was awesome.
It's called the Chris Adler.
Yeah. Oh man, make it heavy.
Dude, I had to crash. Dude, I had to play on that kit too. Well, you were out.
Oh, that one. Yeah. That's right. Too. At the barbecue, right?
Yeah.
Shit. Oh man.
But that reminds me, pretty much when I got a Sabian deal back when I was in like All That Remains, I started using the equivalent of like yours was like the Zildjian Z. It was like the Z Big Bell or whatever they called it back then.
Yeah.
And I loved it so much after playing on your kit.
Not the Big Bell. Mega Bell.
Excuse me. But like Sabian had they had an equivalent, you know, like that hand hammered like Power Bell, Big Bell, whatever they called it.
Vinnie Paul.
Dude, I got that, and then when I went to Zildjian in 2014 and literally got the Mega Bell. Ah, sounds so good.
I want to get that Z really bad. Sorry, but I
got an extra one. You want one?
Dude, if you don't mind.
3.
Oh my God! Well, give me the least valuable one at least.
It's got to be like $200 to ship the thing because it's like 45 pounds.
They're heavy.
Oof! Yeah. But no, Shannon, that Power Bell is like my favorite overall ever cymbal I've ever.
It's pretty amazing. You know what? I had all my Sabian stuff, and when I switched over to Zildjian, I was like kind of in between a lot of things in my life at the time, and I was like hard up for cash, and I sold that ride, and I had used it in like my entire run with BDM, and like I had it in like I think towards the end of the All That Remains era, and I sold that thing to somebody. I don't know. Kind of regret selling it, but
don't you hate that like each cymbal has its own tone, so that way like when I've been playing on this Sabian cymbal that I ordered like at the very beginning of my Sabian deal, and I love the way that the bell sounds, and then I got a different one and I was like, just doesn't sound like the one I've been playing. Like, you know, it's weird how they're so characteristically different, like, you know, but
I think as drummers we get really accustomed to hearing a specific tone and a specific sound, and when it changes a little, we're like, no, that's wrong. And it's not that it's wrong, it's just slightly different than what you're used to. But
yes.
Have any of you guys been to that Zildjian factory where they make the cymbals?
Unfortunately.
Oh, dude, you know that Greg from the Red Chord? He used to work there as a lather. Yeah. So I was rehearsing with them, and he's like, dude, Zildjian's right down the street. And I'm like, yeah, all right, let's go, dude. So I went to this Kevin Talley, the guy who goes on the tours from all the
that's awesome
places. Dude, it's like fucking, it comes out like molten lava, like a fucking pancake batter, and then it goes through this machine where it rolls it and squashes it down. I'm like, no wonder the fucking the rides sound different, or no wonder the 18-inch like crashes all sound different, because they're all like just put it through the flattener again. Like they're all different thicknesses, and they come out different shapes, just like pancakes, and then they have to cut them, and then they cut the biggest shape that they can based on whatever, and then the thickness. Some dude's like, well, this is going to be a Z because it's thicker. This will be an A, and you know, it's just it's crazy. You should go to that if you're ever like, you know, in the area. But it's pretty awesome.
It's in Massachusetts, I believe.
Yeah.
Dude, you called me from Boston when you were up there rehearsing from them. I was living in Mass at the time.
What was I saying?
You were like, dude, I'm trying to learn these red chord parts, and you were like, it feels so weird because like the style of the band is like, it's all together, but it's like a freight train. You know what I mean? And I like, you know, you were like, I'm uncomfortable with it. It just feels weird. But man,
you know,
you stepped in and could play that shit, so whatever.
Dude, there's like, I've played in these bands, and when I think back to like the hardest fucking ones, it was Cattle Decap and the Red Chord, because they were so hard. It was just like jerky and fucking this and that and this and that, and it's like a brain fucking explosion. I mean, Fetus had a little bit of that, but it wasn't like, and John, and you're fucking unbelievable, okay? And I can't really remember how long ago it was or what happened, but somebody at some point, it might have been you or maybe it was Lynn, was like, we might need you to fill in. Did you ask me that, or was it Leonard?
That would have came up. I think it sounds like it would have. You probably got hit up by Steve, Leonard, and myself.
Dude, I was like, fuck no. No way, because I knew that you could do that hyper blast, and I was like, I can't do that, and my brain can't do all that shit that you do. No way. I'm like, when I did the Black Dahlia, I was like, man, I love this. Straightforward, fucking 4/4, fucking awesome. This is like my cup of tea.
You did that with like a day's notice.
Oh man,
like a day. You had your tally chart. Like,
yeah, that was crazy. You know, Brian called me and he's like, "Hey Tally, can you play our shit?" I was like, I looked around. I'm like, well, I've heard a couple Black Dahlia songs. Yeah, I can play it. And then I was like, send me the set list. Just let me like take a listen before I commit. So then I, of course, I listened to some stuff. And then he's like, yeah, the first show's in like 3 days. So then I was on tour already. So I had to, and I didn't know any of the songs.
You had just learned the Red Chord set. Like,
yeah, I was already on tour with the Red Chord.
Ingest all that too.
Let me just throw this out there. I don't think I've told anybody this. I had no fucking clue how the songs went. I never knew the Black Dahlia song. So this was my first time where I did some ballsy shit. I've done a lot of ballsy shit, but this was really ballsy to be like, yeah, I know the songs. I pretty much told them that. And then I showed up and we were in Detroit, I think was the first show. And we got there and we're like trying to get the fuck in and set up so I could rehearse, at least play each song one time with the band. And everybody's late. The fucking venue owner doesn't fucking show up till 6 and like we don't get set up. Dude, we run through like 3 or 4 songs and the guy's like, all right, we got to get the local band up here. I'm like, dude, we are headlining and I have never fucking played with these guys. We got to at least play the songs one time. And Brian's like, don't worry about it, Tally, you got it. I was like,
you're like, I guess I do.
Crazy.
I did great that night, and I did great the second night, and the third night was the night where where I was doing like a thrash beat where I was supposed to be like doing double bass or something, and Trevor goes like, he looks at me and he's like, what are you doing back there? And then I was like, well, you know, I couldn't hear anything because this is a long time ago. Like all I had was my kick drums, you know, from the D4.
There's nothing worse than being confidently wrong.
Dude, I couldn't hear.
Where are you guys at?
Yeah, exactly. You're like, come on, number
one, I barely knew the songs. I can't see my chart. I got the fucking like my little notes right here under my hi-hat trying to like read the fucking shit, and it's like I'm like, can somebody fucking turn a light? Finally, I got a little like working lamp light to put down here so I could always see my sheet music.
Yeah.
Shit.
So what is the tally chart? You have your own little shorthand version of things?
Yeah. Basically, I just, you know, have like some just shorthand, like, you know, double bass, you know, blast or thrash. So as long as I can get those down, you know, then I'll pretty much remember how the song goes. And then I'll do like how many measures it is, like 16 measures or 32 measures, you know. So I'm back there, I'm like 1 2 3 4 2 2 3 4 3 2 3 4 4 2 3 4 5 2 3 4 6 2 3 4. All right, got a change coming up. All right, thrash.
I would like to expand upon that real quick.
The Cephalic Carnage chart would be like, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck.
A lot of page turning.
Well, that reminds me of something, and I've talked about this before. The cephalic music is one of the reasons I've heard, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, John, so strange in the timing and structure is that you guys used to write songs based on like ex-girlfriends' phone numbers.
Social security numbers, addresses, phone numbers. Yeah.
That is fucked up.
I had dreads. I had dreads when I joined the band, and we counted my dreads and wrote a riff about that and around that. Yeah, any idea that would come to the table, get to practice and get all stoned and. I'm sure like some of you guys too, back in the day, we'd be writing a song and it'd be like, okay, we got the Suffo riff into the immolation riff with the bungle riff following that. And then we'll do this. Like, everything was labeled the name of the band that it sounded the most like at the time. And
yeah, dude, that was so sick for me to be able to just happen to fucking see you guys play that night.
Well, it's funny because I know that Leonard, Steve, and myself will never forget that because we were like, dude, you guys gotta play. You gotta play. I drove so far to come see you guys play. And we're like, all right, well, we're here. That was the first tour that we ever did, or that I did with them. Yeah. They did one little 2-week tour before that, and that's when everybody else in the band left and they almost broke up. But I know. And then we hear about you like not too long after. Oh, he's in Maryland jamming with Fetus. It was like, oh shit. Well, this kid is serious.
That weird, annoying kid that talked a lot?
No, we were just proud of you that you were driving through with it, and getting serious with it. Oh, you were hungry for it.
The next second ballsiest thing I ever did was when I joined Fetus. I didn't know a single person in Maryland. This is before the internet, and I just got in my van and trailer and drove up there with Jacob and like knocked on the door, and I didn't know anybody. It was just like, I had just turned 18. I mean, my parents were fucking 2,000 miles away. Like it was crazy. They were like, "You're doing what? Are you sure?" It was fucking scary, but I wasn't scared. I mean, now I look back and I'm like, dude, I would never tell anybody's kids or allow my friends to let their kids go join a death metal band. Yeah.
I'll drive across country and join a band called Dying Fetus. Yeah,
and I got fucking dude, and I got lost in DC, and the cops were like, "Dude, you better get the fuck out of here." And I was like, "Really?" I mean, the fucking highway ended, and I was in DC, like in like the worst part of DC, and I'm white, and the cops were like, "Get the fuck out of here!" I was like, "Why are you telling me that?"
Hey man, it's your what is it? The Catcher in the Rye. It's your Catcher in the Rye. Like you gotta fucking move out. You gotta like make some mistakes and get dirty. But it is like super crazy because I wanted to get the fuck out of Wyoming so bad. And John, I was trying to say to you that I definitely listened to you in high school, and like on the recommendation of Jack Canfield.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So like he fucking pierced a bunch of my face, and he was like, dude, you gotta check out this band. And that was like right when I moved to Wyoming, and that was like right when I was getting into metal. And so like I heard a bunch of Cephalic, and I was like, what the fuck, this is like well beyond what I'm used to. And but like it sorry, I've completely lost my point that I was trying to make. What were we just talking about before this?
John, I think Steve mentioned something to me at one point about maybe filling in for you, and I was like, I don't even want to try to learn those parts. That sounds like a nightmare. And your hands are fast. Like I have I have my limitations. I like know when to stay in my lane. But I think, what was it? Didn't Danny fill in?
Yeah.
Danny's done some stuff.
Killed it.
Danny did.
I watched one of the live videos of him play, and he's a monster, anyways. But like,
Matthew Lee Loftus filled in too.
Who did?
Matthew Lee Loftus
from Albuquerque.
Yeah, the big guy, the bodybuilder, brainiac with like 10 PhDs.
Oh hell yeah! Well, you need that to figure out those.
Yeah. What tripped me up in the blast off going back when like everyone was playing your kit, you had those like stop blockers on your pedals. That was weird to me.
I definitely customize my Axis pedals because I mean, like it was mentioned earlier, they're different pedals. I came from playing Iron Cobra, so I was used to a nice, heavy, solid pedal. Went to the Axis, and I was like, I got to learn how to play these because I know they're going to be better than what I've had. And That's when I added weights to the mallets. I added heavier mallets. I added the toe stops for a while because it gave me a point to really dig into the pedals. And then, that was the first factory or the first company that I went and talked to as well. So it was, I'm with you, Kevin. It was amazing to go there and like, oh my God, I can't believe little strip mall, this little,
Yeah.
But they were like, you want a deal? You want pedals? What do you want? Like, well, I was like, well, yeah, can you mix this with this and this? And they're like, well, yeah, you're at our shop. We'll do whatever you want. So they made me like some, on the spot custom shit that I played forever. I think I'm on my third set of those. But that was just because I wanted newer and nicer. I've never really had problems besides the drive shaft breaking on me.
Yeah.
Well, you haven't really said much here in a little while. Let's. I'm just going to break my script a little bit. What have you been up to, man, for the last decade?
Oh God.
We'll hear a little bit about that, and then I'll play one of your videos.
Lots of life changes. My daughter will be just turned 13, and when she was born is when I kind of backed off from doing the drumming and touring and stuff. I do festivals and one-offs, but got stuck running a restaurant for like 5 years and then got out of that industry, and I've been doing finished carpentry and stuff ever since, which is great. And I haven't played in about 3 years, believe it or not.
Huh.
I got back in touch with my band. All of our band members from the band that I was in when we were like 12 and 13 all got back in touch. And I went over to one of the guitar players' houses today, and I think I might take my white pearls and put him over in his basement in a jam spot and replace his crappy PD whatever he's got down there, and maybe start jamming with something like that. Yeah, maybe start jamming with them a little bit. My old guitar player is big time in banjo, and now he just got one of his modifieds, so he wants to do some electric banjo death metal. But yeah, I actually haven't been playing much at all.
Do you ever sit down and set your kit up left-handed?
I have.
Yeah, I started doing that. And it's fucking like, you can play these like old-timey fun songs that are a little boring to play right-handed because
but it's fun that you can pull them off left-handed.
It's fun to play them left-handed, especially ghost strokes and like weird beats, like stuff that's super easy right-handed. But
it's great
I have like
do.
Because
you're rewiring your brain.
I'm falling in love with drums again.
Me
too. I have a kit here and I play drums, and I love it. Dude,
good.
It's awesome. Because
I lost my
you kind of get burned, dude. You get burned out, and like you kind of like, oh man, you definitely don't want to practice, and it's just like, and then you're like, well, what am I gonna play? Like, what am I gonna sit down and just play double bass? Like, and you don't want to just sit down and play.
5 minutes later, you're like, okay, this is boring. I'm gonna go do something else.
Well, and you also don't want to just play some easy shit right-handed, and it's like, man, I'm just like fucking left-handed, and it's fun again.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's always nice to expand like that, and it just makes your chops better too.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Is it?
Hey, it's all a bunch of drummers, so yes, I guess it depends on who you ask.
I recorded an EP about 3 years ago with a band, and raised kids and all this and that. And I still played, but I wasn't playing a lot. But I've been playing a lot, like every week, 3-4 times a week, and I stream live on Twitch. And again, like you just said, falling in love again. I can't wait to get home, if I'm not home, to jump on my kit and just play again. And I got the Elisa Strike Pro SE, and that's what I used to stream with, and I'm hooked again.
Yeah.
I don't stand up and get excited like I used to when I was younger and actually punch cymbals in the moment, but
I love the image of that.
I don't want to. I used to do that. I don't want to break shit now because it's too expensive.
Well, now it would break you more than the cymbal.
Right. Well, let's take a look at one of John's videos real quick here. I believe it's Lucid Interval, and I know I can't fast forward it because I downloaded it and loaded it into this streaming software. But it's pretty funny and it's awesome. So we're going to take a look at this, and we'll be back in. This one's 5 minutes and 17, and then we'll jump into a little bit about what you've been up to, Kevin, and then we'll talk a little bit about what you've been up to, Shannon, and we'll go from there. But we'll be right back in 5, man.
All right, who's got a fucking drink in their hand? You got a drink in your hand, take a shot. Like that motherfucker right there, Sparky. Hell yeah, let's hear it for Sparky! motherfuckers clap along to this. If you're a stoner, let me see you clap along to the gospel of marijuana.
Veneno crónico por fumar excesivo.
All right, let me hear you motherfuckers say weed. Let me hear you say weed. Beer. And fucking metal.
Why'd you play the easy one?
I have not heard that song in years, and that was so fucking sick to see you kill that live.
Yeah,
Like,
In
that
flip
was
flops,
sick.
nonetheless.
Right around 4 minutes when it picks up, that blast, your left-hand blast is ridiculous.
Flying, man. Good.
I had
And
Nick Barker
sandals.
standing like 5 feet behind me that whole set too.
What's
Like,
that?
I had Nick Barker standing like 5 feet behind me that whole set too.
Well, it's funny you just said Nick Barker, 'cause I was just thinking about him a minute ago when you guys were talking about switching to left-handed kits. What he did in the past when he was trying to learn a left-handed set was he put a video on and then put a mirror across the room, and he watched it in the mirror, and it made sense to him, which I thought was pretty fucking genius.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And then
tried to get
sandals.
into doing a lot more left-hand lead stuff when I could, and a lot of it was just having a fill that ends on this side of the kit, trying to make my way back to the hi-hat so fast. Eventually, it was like, well, this is going to be easier, and then I just started playing a few more beats that way and start cross-wiring the brain, and sometimes you write totally different. I mean, that's one thing, too, Kevin, like playing with the left-hand setup, you'll write completely different drum beats than you would normally play or feel comfortable with.
I'm just playing Weezer songs.
Still, though, just try practicing a couple different things, and you'll be like, wow, that's not what I would have done this way.
I think
My
you're the-
girl's got eyeballs in the back of her head.
I think, John, too, you're the, I know Adam Jarvis does it all the time now, but I think you're the first person I saw actually sitting on the sticks for in case you drop one.
Alex used to play with Immolations, the one that we did a tour
Yeah.
with them, and I saw him do it, and I was like, that's it. That's perfect.
Wild.
I don't need him very often, but
Let's do one more quick little 15-second piece from TAMA, and then we'll talk to Kevin about what he's been up to for the last decade. We'll be right back. All right, Kevin, what you been up to, sir?
Man, you know what? In the past decade, so that takes us back to 2014.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, since you stopped,
okay,
you stopped
so,
pouring.
So, I was trying to pull my life together, and I figured, okay, I make some money playing on a tour, and then I was like, well, I'm gonna buy an old crappy house in San Antonio, so to try to secure my future. So basically, I started renovating houses, which I love, by the way. And I would go to my friends' shows, and I would talk to them on tour buses or whatever. And I'm like, dude, check out this bathroom I just renovated. I love this shit. and then the drummer I'm sitting next to, I can't remember who it was, but he's like, why the fuck did you stop touring to do this?
that's the shit I do now. I do kitchens, and I love it.
Oh, dude,
I'm like,
love it.
look what I just built. Yeah.
Give me a fucking backsplash. Fucking, I love doing that shit. Okay. So I know that a lot of people want to hear about drumming stuff. So, anyway, I renovate houses and I put them on Airbnb. I don't really flip houses. I don't sell them. I just get houses and then I put them on Airbnb or I rent them out. And, my parents did that. So I just figured I see it's a lot of work, but I see the long vision of, okay, I can retire when I'm like 60 or 65 and have good income. I'll still have to maintain houses or whatever. But anyway, dude, I just didn't want to end up a musician at 65 years old and be like, fuck, man, I haven't had a job since 01. I don't have a fucking 401k or a retirement plan or even Social Security because I'd never even paid into it. So I need a fucking plan. Okay, so anyway, but I've been doing a lot of studio work, for the past decade. I'm sure you guys are all tired of hearing about it or seeing my stupid posts. Anybody need some drum tracks? Anybody need some drum tracks? Everybody and their mom probably knows that I do drum tracks. So a lot of people still email me, and then I have my real kit, mic'd up and this is just my fun Weezer kit. But I have my studio kit and I record songs and stuff, you know. And I have a beautiful family. I have a beautiful wife, you know, and I have a 4-year-old son who's just fucking crazy. I mean, imagine me at 4 years old. That's how he is. It's fucking, it's crazy, but it's awesome.
No rules.
Yeah, dude, he is just unbelievable. And then
you probably look like twins because you haven't aged,
dude. Yeah, dude. But I mean, he's awesome. He like kind of like messes around on the drums. But I'm a good dad. I'm not pushing it on him. And I'm also just saying, like, I also have a 15-year-old from before, and I tell him, I'm like, dude, just do what you like to do, because if you get stuck doing some shit that you don't like to do, then your job consumes you. It's like the majority of your life. The majority of your life isn't hanging out with your wife or hanging out with your kids. It's fucking working and making money. So just do something you love, you know? Like if you love this, or if you're like, man, this is cool, then do that. You know, I really try to encourage that, you know. If they want to play guitar, I mean, guitar is a sucky instrument, you know, but if they want to play guitar, they can.
I wish I was a guitar player. I fucking hate lugging in every piece of drum equipment ever. And then setting it up, tearing it down, exiting the building.
Do it again.
Dude, but I just, you know, I'm a family man now. You know, I still play a lot. I played left-handed for like 3 hours today. Can you believe that?
That's awesome.
Fucking played drums for 3 hours. 3 fucking hours.
Well, left-handed though, that's fucking red. I've been trying to do the same thing, but like, dude, I spend 15 minutes on it max, like 5 in one grip, 5 in another, and 5 in another. You know,
really, I'm just trying to really get down like the 8th notes on my right leg with the hi-hat and do cool shit with my left hand on the ride and do ghost strokes. Okay, it's kind of like it's rewiring, and it's entertaining, you know. And I had some time today. I'm like, well, shit, I'm at 3 p.m. and my son just wants to play video games, and we're not going to the pool right now because it's blazing hot. I might as well just play drums. So I just played drums. I got some time before my sick drummer thing. No, I've never fucked with electronic kids. I had a D4 for a while.
A D4, yeah.
But you know what? I'm not opposed to having an electronic kit because I know that it would sound better and there's no maintenance. Like I don't have to tune. Hey, does anybody have a contact for Evans?
There's
funny. A town 20 miles from here, and I think they've got what you're looking for.
Dude, I just, you know, I don't really replace my heads. I was just kidding.
It's overrated.
Just use the hairdryer. Like once they get all dented, just use the heat gun.
So Marco Petrazilla is in the chat, and he is also a drummer on Twitch as well. He does video games and he does live drumming, and he just rated my channel, sent all his users to our channel to watch this interview. So thank you, Marco. Welcome.
Lord Marco.
Lord. So 6 feet under. We've got a 6 feet under, Kevin. Of course, every band, but yeah, you also play with 6 feet under.
Oh yeah, I did. Man, fuck. Just all the bad memories just fucking.
You were touring with
my brain.
When you filled in for them. That was bad memory.
Don't say anything stupid, Kevin. Shoots. I forgot about that. What?
Flip.
Oh yeah. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't. There was one bad moment, really, and it was really bad. You know. Everybody knows about it. So it was the, you know, the cattle decap thing. But you know, I mean, for the most part, Chris was a great guy. You know, that was just, you know, they just got into it, and you know, shit happens. So
yeah, shit happens. Shannon, what about you, man? How you been doing? Where you been? What's been your story lately?
Let's see. I quit touring probably 10 years ago as well. Yeah, it just, on top of being burnt out, you know, I think you just go through different changes in your life. And, you know, for me, there was like that big reality, kind of same as Kevin, like, what am I going to do, you know, in a handful of years? Like, this isn't sustainable. You know what I mean? Like, I chose to play this kind of music because I love it. It's not a money-making genre. You know what I mean? And you can grind at it and just do a bunch of shit that maybe you don't love doing and make some money, but that's not, again, you're not going to retire off of that. You know, it's no 401k and that kind of thing. So I just kind of got between being burnt out and just kind of scared about the future. I chose to just stop and just chase a different career, figure out what the next thing was for me. And fortunately I found that, you know, relatively quick. And I spent like the next like probably 7-8 years really just focusing on that. And I got into cybersecurity, and I've been doing that now for like the last like 8 years probably. And that's a gig that I really love, you know what I mean? And it's like, I feel like a lot of musicians have that kind of mindset anyways, like that's how our brain works, you know? It's not just, okay, that works. It's the why, you know, it's like the nuts and bolts, and it's how we think about music and we break things apart. And it's what keeps my brain stimulated. And so I did that. And then I would play drums here and there, but there would be like a whole year or so gap where I just didn't play, you know, and that's tough because when you run into a project, like somebody's like, hey, you know, you want to do a thing for this, like, you're like, oh shit, like I suck now. You know what I mean? Like with this kind of music, this is the only thing that somebody's going to ask me to do, right? Is metal. And if you don't practice that kind of stuff regularly, it goes away. It's just like lifting weights, you know, like, you know, the muscle memory might be there, but like you're not going to have speed. You're not going to have stamina, you know? And so then when you go to put yourself through boot camp, it's tough. You know, it's a lot of practice and a lot of like, for me, it was just always chasing the click and things like that. And that's not that fun when you go like, oh, I have to practice 4 times a week and I can maybe get myself here. Sitting down and just doing the mundane, like, you know, for like an hour isn't that fun. And so you find yourself getting frustrated. I was very frustrated for years. And I thought maybe I can try different things. I'll change up my kit. I'll try different pedals. I'll try different foot techniques. And none of it really seemed to matter or work. You know, like for me, muscle memory is just muscle memory. And that's what I'm comfortable with. And if I try anything else, it just doesn't work. You know, and I think there's something to be said about just sticking with what works for you and what you know, and then just play. And then you get too caught up in like the competition of the extreme music. Like that's a problem, because I think Longstreth coined the term, like I think he called it the Great BPM Race, right? Like, or the Great BPM War or something like that. Because it at some point it turned into like this ridiculous competition of like, if you can't play this speed, then you're not as good. Or if you can't do this, you know, linear gospel chop in your death metal tunes, you're not on the same level. And it's not true at all. You know, it's all about songwriting and playing what's right for the song. And, you know, you don't have to be a 300 BPM band to be awesome. You know what I mean? And I wasn't until a couple of years ago that like, I kind of like the spark got relit for me. And all of a sudden I was like 15 again. Like buying records and pumped on all these old bands and like just wanted to play. And I invested. Alan actually has a really nice kit he's sitting right next to. And I had seen that and was like, man, I need to build out something like that. You know, like a full on Roland kit with like the kind of matched what I played on my acoustic kit. And I'm like, I might, if I have something like that, I might be more inspired to practice, and it'll be convenient, and I don't have to worry about, you know, changing heads and breaking cymbals and stuff. So I invested in a nice electronic kit and started practicing again. And it was tough. Like the boot camp was tough, and I would get frustrated, and I would do the bounce back and forth things with changing pedals and techniques and seat height and all that. And eventually I just came to that realization that you just need to stick with what's comfortable and what works for you. Like if swivel doesn't come to you naturally, maybe it's just not your technique. You know what I mean? Like, and so I just accepted that, like, or like any other technique for that matter. And you can always learn new things, but I started I started doing some projects that I could track at home through the electronic kit. You know, I kind of piped the Roland kit through the Superior Drummer, and with technology today, it sounds really good. You know, like back in the day, you used to be able to tell fake drums via the cymbals. It was a dead giveaway. And now it's so close that you almost can't tell, or the average listener at least probably wouldn't know. And so that was kind of like what it took. It took like pushing myself into new projects to get really excited. And I started working on a black metal project, which we've finally kind of announced roughly, loosely. I met this guy on YouTube who was, you know, doing stuff, and had a pretty cool channel. He was going over to like Norway and visiting all the old mayhem spots from the early 90s. And, you know, he had these cool, like kind of just melodic black metal tunes in the background of his series. And I thought they were really cool. It was his stuff, and he just did it all himself. And so I just left a comment. I was like, "You want to make some tunes?" And he was like, "Yeah." So we started writing some songs. You know, we decided, let's just do an EP and see how it goes. You know, we'll write 3 to 5 songs. And they really I really liked it. And I was like, man, I think this is something really cool. We should get, you know, other people involved. So I actually live probably about 35 minutes from Noah Martin, who played bass for Arsis. And Noah's just a turbo shredder, and he's like one of the sweetest dudes. And I hit him up and was like, "Hey man, I'm doing this project. You want to check it out?" You know, and he checked it out, and he's like, "I'm in." So then we have a sick bass player, and then the vocalist was a really hard thing to get, but we fortunately ended up talking to Adam from Skeleton Witch, and he got on board, and he's got some black metal stuff under his belt. He's just a killer dude, great vocalist, great lyricist, and so everything kind of really took shape. And then Adam introduced us to this guy in Denver named Travis, who's got another band out there, does some really cool stuff. And Travis threw some cool keys on there. And so it brought out this ambience and this like more texture. So that whole thing is pretty much getting wrapped up. And then Mark Lewis is going to be mixing that.
Nice.
July, I think. Band, we're just calling it Wolven Spirit. You know, we kind of just had a vibe and a feeling for the EP. And then right around the same time I was wrapping up drum tracks for that, Ken from Aboard had hit me up, and he's got a project called Aerith, in which he wrote pretty much the whole album. And he's an amazing guitar player and a songwriter. I don't know if
he is one of those guys that's great at everything.
Comes from a musical family. His dad actually played bass on the record.
Yeah, I've seen him play bass with Goat Whore actually a couple times.
It's crazy. Every song on the album is so good, and it's very very Swedish sounding. You know, very In Flamesy. And there's guests on every single song. And he hit me up originally because there's a track on there that Trevor had guested on. And he was like, "Do you want to play drums on this?" And I was like, "Dude, I'd be honored." You know what I mean? Like, thank you for asking me for that.
Full circle.
And like John Kay did a solo on it. So like it's the first time the three of us will have been on any song together in a long, long time. And then that kind of turned into, "Hey, would you want to split drums on the album with me? Like I'll do half and you do half." And I was like, nobody does that. That sounds cool. So we did that. I tracked half, he tracked half, and then it's been off to be mixed. And, you know, that was a lot of fun. And so it's the stuff like that kind of got me re-inspired. And I'll still get on and do like the metal, you know, death metal, like click chase kind of ordeal where I just, you know, maintaining, I guess. But then lately I've actually been playing with some people locally that are a lot older than me who've done tremendous things in Nashville over the years, you know, playing with huge country stars that are actually just from my area. There's actually a lot of like big country artists from my town. And they hit me up. We're like, "Hey man, we're just jamming. We're doing some songs. You know, somebody here in town, singer-songwriter. We just want to jam. You in?" And I went and checked it out. It's like a very folky kind of very old school traditional country flavor. And I was like, yeah, that sounds awesome. It pushes me out of my comfort zone because that's like a style of drumming that like I'm just not used to. You know, like I can play train beats all day long, but like playing quiet and playing soft and playing feeling
quiet is a key.
Dude, it's so hard. It's so hard. I even like, so I stripped down, I pulled like pieces out of my kit, you know, just to play with like a 4-piece, just single pedal. And then I was like, man, it's still like everything's too loud and abrasive. And so I even got like, I just got a new set of like Zildjian K Darks, like game changer for that style. and been playing with brushes and been playing with like rods and things and trying to like figure out how to play with more space, right? Death metal's full of notes, right? Everything's just to a grid, and then when you play stuff like that, or even something more simplistic, when you think of like AC/DC, everyone thinks, oh, it's the easiest drum beat ever, but it's not.
It's the hardest.
You are managing so much space, and you have to like create that pocket feel. You know what I mean? And when you get into things like old country, you have these really wispy train beats that are not just 4/4; they're 4/4 with swing. You know what I mean? And the accents aren't like this static accent. They vary. You're creating a feeling. You know what I mean? Like to these old songs that are meant to be sad because the person that wrote them is fucking sad. So it's stuff like that, and like very wispy like swing feel stuff with hi-hats and cross sticking, and I want to dabble more into linear stuff, but
to rhyme the word sad, you reminded me of something said by Steve Gadd. The best playing is knowing when not to play. That's one of my favorite quotes.
And it's a good lesson for that with that style of music.
Yeah,
I went through all that stuff when I was working with my dad on his CDs.
Does Morgan Wallen live on your street by chance? Because I'm really trying to play with.
Dude,
play with him.
That dude's larger than life, man.
Dude, I need to get into that band.
Like filling out arenas. Like
I know
his drummer is sick. I don't know if you've seen him. The guy that plays with him live is so sick.
Well, talking about arenas being sold out, look at Bobby Jarzenbeck playing with George Strait for the past, year and a half.
Really?
Yeah, they're actually.
Isn't Bobby from San Antonio?
For the record, I skipped out on George Strait tonight for this, so love you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.
Oh, he's down in North Carolina. I was gonna go, and then this thing was here, and I'm like, this is important. So.
Oh damn. That's pretty awesome. Well, let's take a listen to some of your handiwork real quick. We'll take a quick break here. And we will, let's see, Shannon, I got you 2011 from the Summer Slaughter.
Oh, man.
I don't have this song in front of me, but
Malachabits!
I can tell you one. Let's see here. The song is Moonlight Equilibrium.
Oh, okay. Different one.
All right, we'll be back in 3 minutes and 45.
We're going to play a couple new ones for you. This one is called Moonlight Equilibrium. Come alive!
It's all the cosmic fathers of now. The trail in the night, the written words in grace. See things of man, the witness would be. I cast my ancient, that light befell. Guilty of body, the goodness come out. Down the passion growing, I know rises mountain steel. The symbols of evil are coming to my head inside you. And the team increasing, when it's dark upon the passing wind. The forcing what we are seeing, the light instructs you. The beautiful, wonderful, mighty equilibrium. The transmission of my soul, it's from within the rain. We're all the beast, the dark from its sky. Not subdue this longing to kill. To taste the wind, your only will. No salvation will.
Wow. Oh, is it over? Hold on, I'm texting my friend real quick. Hold on.
On the chat.
Man, that
A piece
was
of that.
awesome. Man, it
You guys
sounded
ever,
so good.
You guys remember a band out of the UK called Burning Skies? Greed, Filth, Abuse, Corruption was the album.
That name rings a bell.
They were great. Part of that song reminded me of one of their songs called "To Be a Man." Anyway, whatever. It's not important. That was killer. You sit so close to your fucking snare drum and so low.
Yeah,
it's wild.
you know, as far as sitting low, I think my thighs are they're about level. I'm not incredibly taller. They're like 5'10", but like my thighs are fairly flat. The way I play,
Low riders,
dog. We both like sit on the fucking floor.
We're both like this playing drums, but
there's power like that, and the other part of it for me is control. And the way I play, I think Roddy actually best explained it because he kind of sees it and uses muscle groups like I do, where it's like almost it's not full leg, but like I use a lot of hip flexor and hamstring with my calves, so it's not just ankles. There's a lot of like you can see in the video, like my legs are actually moving, and that's a more direct up and down motion for me. So my heels are up, but my whole leg's kind of moving, you know. So I think sitting close is necessary for that. Plus, I don't really want to reach. I have tried since then I have pulled my kit back just a hair so that my snare isn't quite as close. But yeah, I sit relatively close.
I noticed that too during John's video we played earlier. his ease of motion and not reaching, the ergonomic setup. When you were doing it, you were hitting those chokes on the China after the 4-minute blast mark in lucid interval.
Yeah.
And you could probably take the butt end of your stick, throw it on your snare, and probably reach at least your 3 other toms without picking it off the snare drum, I'm guessing.
Oh, for sure.
Which is how mine
I'm
is.
huge on ergonomics. That's why, like I said, about opening up my playing and doing some left-hand lead here and there. That saves so much motion. And, I mean, I've had some shoulder injuries just when making moves like that too fast. And, when you're playing
playing drums.
Here and there.
You are wild.
Well, so this is something that people probably don't know if they don't go into the studio often or play live often. So for the drummers at home, is there's a sacrifice that has to be made with cymbal placement. Like we all want them right above our toms because it's like very easy to reach. But the problem is when you go into the studio, the mic bleed is a huge issue. So like studio engineers, they want your cymbals up in the sky. You know what I mean? And it sounds best live and on the album if they're further away, but it does mean you have to reach a little bit more. So it's kind of like finding the best place between the two, right? Like I don't want to reach into the sky for a crash, but I also don't need it directly above a tom mic.
Carter Beauford from Dave Matthews changed my approach and my style with a lot of my setup and ergonomics and trying to do more left-hand lead stuff because he's kind of got the 3 tiers. He'll have his toms, he'll have his percussive cymbals, and he'll have his big accents on the top up higher. Yeah. And I got a little more accustomed to doing that. And yeah, the engineers definitely want that. So I got pushed into moving them up a little bit with recording sessions. And then it was like, well, I should make myself comfortable with this because it's just all around going to be easier. but it also adds that other layer. Plus, you know, doing some left-hand lead, you got all this open for mood and bell work over the toms, like different cymbal accents. And it's always been more comfortable for me. And the longer that I went on playing, the higher my throne height would get.
Well, and you tilt your ride is more tilted up, kind of like Alan. You're kind of like that too, like Hellhammer, a bunch of those drummers. And I think Alan, you and I had the conversation about ride placement and like natural position of like your right hand over there, and it made a lot of sense. And I've actually since kind of shifted my ride up a bit and tilted it more. Where it used to be like more far to the right, flat.
The more traditional death metal setup.
It's a lot more tilted than it was for sure.
Yeah, Gus Rios from Gruesome and Left to Die, who was also an engineer. He did a video on that a few years ago, and his drum set is a lot like yours in that mentality, if you will, where he's got the perfect balance of they're not too far away where you're reaching, they're not too close to the tom where you're going to have the bleed, but they're just perfect in the ergonomic spot that he has them in. And I love how his kit is set up. I want to sit at it and play it. You know, it's awesome.
Acoustic love to it.
So let's see. There's a lot of great comments in here. Everyone's enjoying this very much. Thank you guys for the comments. This is great. Of course he listens to Dave Matthews. Well, who doesn't? Carter's the man.
If you're a drummer and you don't listen to Carter Buford at least, you're missing out.
Yeah.
You don't have to like Dave Matthews' music, but listen to Carter.
I mean, R.I.P. Aaron Spears, but
absolutely.
He would sit really high like that. But man, he was
always got more comfortable. If I sat too low and I would have any kind of cramping in my hips, it would stick with me for a few days. And being on the road, there's no time for that to not go away, and it's just annoying.
Yeah.
So it just
eventually. That's the worst, having an injury on tour. Never.
I mean, we've played down in Mexico before, and they didn't have drum thrones that went high enough, so I've had to put like a TAMA Iron Cobra case on top of a drum throne maxed out.
Wow!
Just the
phone book.
What's a phone book?
Phone books.
I had to page somebody to get me a phone book.
Yep. Alan's got the other problem. His seats won't go low enough.
I want the TAMA to make me the original low rider. Yeah, the first act, the saddle seat TAMA throne. You know, it was like they made the base of it where the legs would curve out and sit much lower, and then you just spin it up if you need any more height. But nowadays, they're starting like a full, I don't know, like 6 inches, like 4 inches, something like that, higher than what they were building the bases as. And it drives me nuts, man. Like, I am all about sitting low, so I have control over my legs. This goes back to Dave Weckl. It's literally the VHS back to the basics. He's back to basics. If you sit
that changed my life too.
Dude, I mean, like, I didn't know shit as a kid. And for some reason, I just took this to heart when I was really trying to play drums and not even, like, go fast on pedals. Like, I didn't know any technique. I didn't know what the fuck to do to even begin with that. But the basis of have your leg at a 90-degree angle, it just makes sense. It's like, so your, point of force is, like, right here where it can strike, and it just pushes your whole foot down, and then you just like cycle through the different muscle groups to do all the faster subdivisions and whatnot. But yeah, Dave Weckl basically got me sitting too low, and now I can't go back.
I did a couple recording projects with Trace Bruance from Mr. Bungle, and he flew me out to San Francisco, and the biggest honor probably of my life was I got to play Dave Weckle's drum set from the Back to Basics recording.
Wow.
I got to play it twice.
Where's that set
with
up?
Trey? That's wild.
With Trey to do Secret Chief stuff, which was insane. Yeah. But I got to record in one of the sweetest studios in San Francisco on that drum set.
That's sick.
That's incredible. Because Steve kind of hooked the whole thing up for me, and then he told me that was like the icing on the cake, and I was like, dude, that means more to me than a whole other part of it. Like, I just want to go play that drum set.
Oh, man.
Here's an interesting question in the chat that I'll ask to Shannon to answer first, and if anybody else wants to chime in on it, feel free. What about the thrones with the back support? Do you lean back on them while you play? Does it help you go faster or keep your weight centered? And I would say no, but
I think that's subjective. I think it's based on your technique and how you play. Now, I've seen drummers that do kind of push outwards, and so they will sit on the back of their seat, and that might be helpful. I'm based on how I play. I sit on the edge of my seat, which is
like Culross,
not that normal, maybe. At least I don't know. But and it's because it feels like my hamstring area, my legs are more free to move. Like they're not limited by the seat. Like I can move my legs more freely, I think. So when I sit closer to the edge, it's not as comfortable, but it is what feels best based on how I play. And I sit on sticks too, like John. I've been doing that forever, and that's not necessarily comfortable. Yeah, it's not comfortable, but I mean,
I love it.
It's probably the easiest place. Yeah, it's easy to grab them. You know what I mean? But
that's how Culross described it years ago. I've known Dave since we were 19, and I asked him the same question. He's like, I'm on the front of my seat, and it's like I'm running when I'm at full speed, straight singles.
It feels like your legs are a bit more free to move, like when I sit on the back of the throne, it feels really comfortable if I'm not doing metal stuff. But
that's funny because your description of that for me is sitting higher makes my legs feel better and more room to move. Yeah. And I guess I do sit a little bit more towards the front, but I've never really thought about it.
But your heels are your heels are much further down than mine. Like I play with my heels pretty high up, and there's a lot of like just this movement versus like the outwards like that. Yeah.
Okay, I have the weirdest situation, and it's all because of coping, but it's like, Shannon, you left a saddle throne at the practice space, and half of one butt cheek was basically broken with support. So, like, this thing, when you sat on it, like,
I got a fat ass?
Only on one side.
I don't know how this happened. Yeah, you have a fat butt cheek, like, singular. But, so one of these sides was way fucked up, and I couldn't get any support. I turned the whole thing 90 degrees, and now I am sitting on the end of a long, saddle seat, and I've got more support under my thighs. And I swear to God, I think that is like one of the most groundbreaking things to me to have support under your legs, like further out, so that way like it can hang off the side and you can switch between your small muscle groups and have without the hip flexors.
I was just going to say, it sounds like it would mess your hips up.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it's so like important to me to sit low because of that reason. Like the using just your knees and your thighs if you absolutely have to, but like switching between the muscle groups and being able to be in control and like go really fast like on a moment's notice.
I'll have to turn my seat sideways and give it a try.
I really want them to make me.
Oh shit, mine's round.
Yeah, mine's round too.
Turn it anyways, man.
I'm gonna turn mine around.
You guys ever hear the band Karma to Burn?
Yeah.
They're from Virginia. The drummer took a seat off of a John Deere tractor, and he mounted it on top of an orange crate box you'd see in the fields when they're picking oranges. So it's a wooden crate with a John Deere seat just stuck into it, however he did it, screwed it in, bolted it, and that's what he played on. It was pretty wild. And it was low.
Very Virginia thing to do.
It is a very Virginia thing to do. Kevin, someone back here asked if you would just talk about real quick what it was like with your time in Chimera. I think that's a relevant question.
That was good, Well, I did the Slayer audition. Well, how I got into Chimera is I did the Slayer audition, and then a couple years later, Kerry called me up, and he said, "Hey, man, I know a band," because Kerry was really into Chimera back then. And he was like, "This band I know needs a drummer. So is it okay if I pass them your number?" Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so then, man, Misery Index was fucking awesome. It was 2004. We just did the Descent EP. I don't know if any of you guys heard it. It was like a little $500 recording, but it was like fucking awesome. And man, we were about to do something great, and I was like, I gotta quit. And it was fucking devastating for me. Well, why'd you do it then? Well, okay. It was a good opportunity for me to be in a bigger band that was maybe going to make some money. And, you know, I felt bad about it. In Misery Index, we weren't drawing any people. We were awesome, but we weren't drawing any people. It was still like we hadn't even had an album out. We had 2 EPs out. Oh, but anyway, you know, so I joined the band. I show up to the rehearsal space. Of course, I'm a fucking clown. So I show up there, and we have a tour starting in like 3 days, you know, with Machine Head and Trivium. And it was Trivium's, like, I think one of their first tours. So they were opening up, but they were pretty awesome, you know. But, man, I show up and I like pretend I can't play drums in the rehearsal studio. And they're like, fuck.
What's Karen doing?
This is... Who are we gonna get to play drums?
Jesus Christ! Like, I've thought about doing that type of shit, but I'm like, what if I just give them the worst idea, and then they're like, not sure about this.
Oh, what if they don't let you really play? Like,
yeah.
No, I only did it for about 10 minutes, and I was like, well, let's go to another song. I can't really get that one, even though it's like their biggest song, you know, or whatever.
The pure hatred.
Yeah, it was like, you know, but so we jammed a bit, and then we went on tour, and it was fucking awesome, you know. I mean, it was a great tour, and we did a lot of great tours, and the only drawback was it was like I had to live in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And we wrote the record in the wintertime, like when we weren't really busy touring. So I think we wrote from, you know, November to February or something like that. Oh man, just being in Cleveland in the wintertime was just so brutal and dreary, and I'm just like, man, this is so depressing. Like I need like sunshine and fucking like fun people. And they're just from Cleveland, you know.
Cleveland in the summer.
It was okay, you know.
It smells too. It's got a horrible smell.
Go eat your woes away at Mel.
It was a good time. It was a good time, and we made that record. And then, of course, we did cool tours. Like, you know, I get to meet Shannon on that tour, and of course, I make friends with young, fun-loving drummers. Now that I'm remembering Marshall, I was like, man, Marshall's sick. Shannon was sick. And who else? Brent Masters. Does anybody know who I'm talking about when I say Brent Masters? The Agony Scene original drummer.
Oh yeah, the young.
Anyway, he was kind of tall. Oh, dude. We were on the Blackest of the Black tour, and the Agony Scene was there, and it was a Chimera tour, and Brent was like trying to go backstage with. Shit, I probably shouldn't even talk about that. He's never gonna know. Anyway, it was so long ago. It was with. He was going backstage with some chick, and the security guy was like fucking searching him. Like we were in the band. Like he was like, and he had.
Oh yeah.
Brent had a massive boner.
Oh,
and the dude is searching him. It was hilarious. What's that in your pocket? My boner.
I'm just happy to see you.
He was a cucumber. He took a page out of the Derek Smalls book.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, dude, it's so hilarious. Anyway, So the Chimera shit was awesome and fun, but then you know Andos wanted to come back in the band, so
I've seen you.
It was best. Well, I don't know. You know, I think it would have been great to stay in the band, of course, but I think it was good for the band to get Andos back. You know,
I've seen you with Chimera, I've seen you with Misery, I've seen you with Suffo, and I've seen you with Fetus. That's pretty crazy. Did you tour with Deftones when you were in Chimera?
I don't think I ever did anything with
Who
the
the hell
Deftones.
was it?
Oh,
was it
I played a Battlecross show, and Deftones was there.
No, was it It was at an ice arena in Rochester, New York, at the Monroe Community College, and it was you guys. And I thought it was Deftones. Maybe it was a snowcore tour. Did you ever do a snowcore? Never mind. Doesn't matter.
Dude, actually, when I watched that video of you, Shannon, I saw all your tattoos, and you know what? On my freaking Wikipedia page, it has a picture of you.
No.
Yes. Look at it right now. I'm serious. I was looking at it like a month ago because they had my birthday wrong, and I was like, I wonder if they fixed that by now. And I look on there, and it's like Kevin Talley, and it's like a picture of Shannon. And I'm like, this is, man, Wikipedia needs to step it up.
There's a guy.
Dude, it's totally me.
Yeah.
Show it up to the. See if your phone will show the camera. See if we can see it. I don't want to go.
Yeah.
How do you go from being featured on a calendar in Russia
to
also being Kevin Talley's fucking profile photo in Wikipedia?
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
There's a person in chat here that asked a question earlier that they missed the answer. They want to ask you again, but there's a new question here from the same person. So, last I heard about Shannon, he was running a tattoo shop. Is that true?
No, it was talked about briefly some years back when I was still married, and my ex-wife ended up opening a shop without me. So,
okay.
Yeah, no affiliation.
All right, well, that's cool. Thanks for the answer. There you go, Berzoom. I answered one of your questions. I appreciate your patience, man. There's a lot of stuff popping in here. We've had close to 100 people on here the whole time that I'm seeing. There's probably more on YouTube that I'm not seeing. But that's pretty wild. Do you guys have any questions for... Okay, Alan aside, no offense. Have you all toured multiple times together?
Definitely.
Yeah.
John and I shared a bus for a month in Europe. It was 3 bands on one bus, brother. It was Black Dahlia, Cephalic, and Psychroptic for a month, January to February in winter on one bus.
I do remember it being cold.
Dude.
We did Australia, New Zealand, too.
We did. Oh, wow. We did the Pacific Rim thing together.
Yeah.
We did something in the States, I feel, too.
I was thinking about that, too. I feel like we totally did a tour. I just can't remember exactly which one it was.
Yeah.
It seems like yesterday with some of that stuff, but, man, it wasn't. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, Australia, I remember pretty well. Leonard had that boombox he brought over to... That dude was always playing some tunes, man.
Yeah.
Always playing some tunes. We went to Bon Scott's grave.
Yeah.
Wow.
Were you with us then?
I think I went with you guys, yeah. I know I've been there to Von Scott's. No, I went with you guys when, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Leonard with the boombox.
Surprised the boombox worked. I thought it would have been like just a decoy made of weed and painted. Like the green bus in the Cheech and Chong movie.
Yeah. Fucking Leonard.
Well, let's take a little listen to a little bit of Alan's handiwork, and when we come back, I want to ask you guys, in the time that you haven't been active and touring and doing all this, has there been any bands or drummers that have piqued your interest as far as, new guys or stuff you've been listening to or what you're into? So just take a second to think about that while we throw up this last video here. This is Alan Cassidy, and this is, of course, Black Dahlia Murder from 2018 of Darkness Spawned. And we'll be back in 326.
This one's about the cult your family joined that brought you out west. Let's move, guys!
Cheers, motherfuckers! Drink it up!
Yeah, Colorado!
So sick.
Yeah, Colorado.
Colorado, dude, that was sick.
Yeah, that was sick.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, but like
So fluid.
honestly, all I'm doing is learning Shannon's parts, and
All I'm doing is shredding the fucking faces off.
But I was gonna say though that like that is one of my favorite deep cuts off of that record because there is just so much going on in that song, and like it really I think is kind of a sleeper, but it's one of the best drum tracks out of like the top 5 at least, you know.
Dude, thank you. That's a fun one, man. Like one of my favorites off that album.
Yeah, I had a blast learning it. There was just like so much there, and
You
I
play
was
far better than I. So.
oh, thanks, man. I mean, but it was like, dude, there was just stupid shit where it was like, oh god, I hope I remember to do the like ride cymbal trill thing tonight. Like, you know, there's so many little things all throughout that song that make it so fun. But like that, like, dude, that's so much fun to.
Dude, I'll say like
alternations.
When Alan submitted his videos to the band, when he sent in his audition videos, it was like the most like accurate covers I think I'd ever seen. I was like, he literally found every little nuance. Not that they're that overly complex, but I'm like, he didn't miss anything. Like it was like all the little things were there. He didn't play shit that wasn't there, you know, and add his own stuff, which is room. You can always add more things, you know, but it was like super solid, and like live, it's like all the things are super, super accurate. Like it's cool. Like that's a hard thing to do, to learn someone else's songs and to pick out every little thing that's happening, because it's not always crystal clear on an album.
Oh, dude, I had to do so much iPod fucking rewinding. Like, I was so sick of it. Like, I'm so glad we're at a different spot in technology where it's like, oh, load the Moises file into the DAW or even just Moises and fucking slow it down and pick out just the drum track and figure it out, you know?
And dude, you deciphered Zach stuff far better than me, man. I just kind of like ran with it. We were short on time, and what I like transcribed in my brain is what it stuck. You know what I mean? And then I've heard you play some of those songs, and I was like, oh, that sounds far more like the record. You know?
I tried to take the time to honor the original recording because I loved hearing that album when I was young and obviously not in the band. And actually, funny story, when Zach had left the band, I emailed them and I was like, hey, can I try out? And it was Brian's email that like hit me back. Says, obviously we've corresponded since then, but he was like, yeah, just do Flies and like Miasma or something. I was like, not ready for that yet. And and so I didn't go any further, but fucking no, your parts on like all of, you know, Nocturnal and Deflare and fucking Ritual especially. Oh my god, that was like the fucking, you know, jumper cables to the nipples. Like that was to me anyway, you know, like I felt like that album fucking really like just came back with a vengeance, and all your parts on that so sick. But anyway, the Zach thing, sorry, I tried to honor those parts and also do what you were doing structurally when you would play them live, because you gave them much more memorable structure to me than having to remember these like differing fills and slightly different rhythms with fills interrupted or something like on the second repeat or whatever.
Yeah. I tend to write stuff that I have pieces that I'll repeat throughout songs, because it's kind of like, I almost see it like a guitar player. Like, you know, guitar players will do like, they'll have like a riff, and then maybe like on the end of one of them, there'll be like this little noodle piece or whatever, but they'll reintroduce it in other parts of the song. And it kind of like, kind of becomes part of that song's identity. And I think drums, you can do the same thing. You can do like a cool little trick somewhere and then reintroduce it later in the song. And it's like kind of a, you know, like a nod to that thing you did in the beginning, you know. But
a little while ago, I sent Jason Bittner a text and I asked him what he thought about all you guys and your drumming skills. And he just sent this back.
man.
That's funny. So yeah, back then, anybody got any new favorite drummers or bands you've been listening to lately that piqued your interest that you can't get enough of, or not even enough of? But what are you digging? If you're not drumming, you gotta be listening.
This band Phosphorus, if I wasn't close enough to the mic, it's Adrian from At the Gates, and this is his black metal project. It's like a 2-guy project, I think, and holy fuck, he really brings it on this album. Like, super fun, interesting, just bouncy black metal, but like not just bouncy. I mean, it's groovy when it needs to be groovy, and it's like fucking straightforward blast beats and pummeling when it needs to be. And this fucking record rocks. Check it out. It's like
I'm putting it in chat just so I can see it later. I think I spelled it right.
He's
Phosphorus.
Gotcha.
But yeah, fucking fantastic stuff. Like unbelievable.
Anybody else?
There's a couple that come to mind, especially for like metal stuff, which I'm assuming most people here probably want to hear about. For different reasons, though. Like these are drummers that I watch videos and I just get like really pumped up. Like I'm like, I want to play. You know, like Krim. Everything he's done for like the last 12 years, I've just loved. Like, it's so tasteful. His playing it's heavy. You know, like he slams. Like he's got good feeling and dynamics, and he can go fast if he wants. He's not just hung up on whether, you know, somebody says, hey, you want to do this song? It's 260. He's like, man, it's not really my thing. And I like that attitude where it's not like that's the only thing he cares about, you know. And some of their albums that he's played on are just beautiful.
His solo stuff is great too. He's another Ken. You know, it's like everything so
Explorer,
good.
Like came about at a time when I was really burnt out and I just didn't even want to look at drums, and it made me want to play. And I think I told him that. I saw him with Septic Flesh when they were with Dark Funerals some years back. It was the first time meeting him, and I was like, man, that Explorer album made me want to play drums again. Like. Nice. He doesn't overplay. Like he plays what's right for the song. And I like that. You know what I mean? Like do what makes it sound best. Like it's not for some bands, it's the style, right? Like I love Origin, always loved Origin, but that's the style. It's busy and it's fast and it's over the top and that's what it's supposed to be. But there are a lot of bands where you play what makes the song sound best. I mean, look at Opeth, classic example. All those guys are just tremendous players, but none of them overplay. They do what's right for the song.
Yeah. And Bloodbath. I fucking love
Sebastian Lancer blows my brains out, man. The guy's so good. A lot of the stuff that he's been posting, his videos on YouTube have been just like amazing. Make me want to play.
He's a madman.
And then,
speaking of Septic Flesh, Fotis Bernardo just put out a drum library pack with a company. It's not Tune Track, it's another smaller one, but one of my guys who's been in chat here is AZ. His name is Anthony Zakari. Killer drummer on Twitch, and he's in a band in Toronto called Prospects. They're kind of like Faith No More meets Lamb of God meets Periphery, I guess. I don't know. They're insane. Wow. And he's reviewing the software for me now for a write-up, but he says it's fucking pretty wild so far. If you guys are looking for new things to try out with your, sampling or whatever, check out Fotis's pack.
Definitely.
Cool.
James Stewart. There's another one.
James Stewart is ridiculous.
Animal, man. He's an animal. Like
Vater.
I love watching a dude that plays like just that. It's so ferocious. You know what I mean? Like to be playing that fast and for so long, but with like literally, it's like his entire being. You know, like it's like an Adam Jarvis. Like that dude's a freight train.
Oh, I gotta shout out the drummer / every band member for Anal Stab Wound. If you know who I'm talking about, his name is... I am currently Googling it because I don't know enough. Hold on. Nikhil.
Yeah, Nikhil. Yeah, he was on our best of 2023 list.
Oh my God, that kid!
He was on 3 albums, I think, on our best of list last year. He's in a bunch of bands. He's fucking nuts.
I'm pretty sure he was raised by like reanimated corpses, and he is just a straight up like black metal history, but like death metal history kid. Like, you know, he was raised by zombies. He only listened to brutal death metal. He didn't communicate with any humans until a certain age, and it was like that's how he got all of his talent and inspiration for like what he does, because I don't know anybody who is like a teenager who covers like Devourment and fucking Defeated Sanity on every instrument like at that age. You know, what the fuck? Like, wow. It's unbelievable. He is the real deal.
Kevin Paradise is another one that blows my mind.
Absolutely.
If you guys haven't heard of a band out of Boise, Idaho called Barn, just Barn, like the building.
I saw that video.
Dude,
that dude is the whole band is great.
These kids put out their first full length at 17. They're now like 21, 22. They write original music in the vein of Old Death and Cynic. 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 13-minute songs. They are fucking talented as fuck. It's insane. Barnnoise.bandcamp.com, I think, is the URL. Check them out. Write it down. It's like the best shit I've heard in 10 years. Really, most original anyway.
Wow.
Kevin Parody did a cover. If you go on YouTube and you look for Mayhem like Hellhammer covers, you're gonna find very few because they're tough. And he did Watchers, which is like 250, and the feet are just going like the whole song. And Hellhammer, you know, he does like a double stroke thing with those boots. He's been doing that shit probably since before John, I think, you know, back in like Grand Declaration. And Kevin did it all single stroke. It's insane. Like God damn. He's an alien.
He's an alien for sure.
He has such precision with like the tippy toes. And I'm just like, I don't know how you do that, man. Like, I have to have like a pendulum sort of like feel to like swivel or something. I don't know how you can just be like, I got it. I'm locked in.
Got it nailed down, man. I mean, there's like a bunch of videos that have come out in like the last 10 years of drummers that are covering tracks where the original drummer did it with like heel toe. You know, like what's his name? David Diopole? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it.
Diopole.
Hey, tremendous. I mean, his first handful of videos he put out where he was covering like cattle decap tracks, you know, like but doing it all like single stroke. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah, Anthony Barone's another one.
That kid is too big. Like, I can't believe like how much he has to work with. It's fucking awesome, though. I'm like so jealous.
That's the benefit of not touring as much, right? Like you can you can have a bigger kit. You go on tour, you're like, I don't need that and that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that,
It gets small real quick.
Never trying to figure out this auxiliary hi-hat situation.
Anthony Barone's another one too, and Bryce Butler is pretty wild.
Anthony Barone, yeah, he got the All That Remains gig, man.
Yeah, he's wicked good. What about you, Kevin? Anything, John, Kevin? We haven't heard from you.
I just listen to old guys.
It's all right.
Yeah,
I listen to my old guys, and then I'm too swamped listening to the shit I gotta record all the time.
Right.
I don't have that problem.
whether it's like trying to write parts or afterward, I record some stuff, and then I'm just making sure that I like it, So
I'm a podcast junkie. I listen to true crime podcasts like all day at work. Yeah, it makes the time go quick, and
you learn some stuff.
Yeah, I've always been into serial killers and that kind of stuff, so I've been listening to.
You like Last Podcast on the Left?
I've heard of it, but I don't think I've listened to it.
Fun one,
dude. You gotta go check it out.
The multi-part black metal podcast that they did.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
One. No, they did like a couple part.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I totally forgot.
Like the 90s Norwegian scene.
Yeah, but true crime,
paranormal,
all that.
Yeah.
Well, we are coming up on like 2.5 hours. I'm just going to ask you.
Will never end.
A quick question. I got to give away this symbol, and then we'll real quick talk about what you got coming up, Shannon. I want to hear a little bit more about it when it's coming out, and we'll do our goodbyes. But I don't know. Let's see. The first person in chat to type in anybody's first name on here aside from me will be the person I ask to pick a number. So somebody in chat, just name one of these guys real quick. Just pick a name. And I'm just trying to do Alan. Okay, Alan. Pick a number from 1 to 13.
13, bro. I was born on Friday the 13th.
All right, well. Oh, actually, there's more now. Hang on one second. I want to be fair.
No, you're going back on your word.
Okay, Darius Shade. Darius Shade, I don't know if you're on this interview, but you just won the sentence symbol with the Sticker Magazine logo etched. I will get in touch with you on Twitch, and we'll figure out how to send it to you. Congratulations. Thank you. That was nice and fair without me downloading some kind of aggregate, whatever, fair picker software. AZ, can you write that down for me, please, if you don't mind? Darius Shade. I would appreciate it. Or
Dude,
sold.
One time I had a competition where I gave away a guitar and a bass and maybe a cymbal. And dude, this guy won the bass. And Jackson sent me this free bass. It was just like the dude, I can't think of his name anyway, sends me this thing. And the guy that won the bass was like in Asia somewhere.
Oh boy.
And it cost $400 fucking dollars.
I've got that covered already, Kev. Mom drowned all the dumb kids.
So I paid it because the dude's like, I don't have money to pay anything.
I
just won the competition. I was like, shit.
Oh, here you go.
Can you meet the package halfway?
Yeah. Dude, I can't remember. It wasn't like it wasn't Philippines. I don't know. It was just some, I don't know. But you get the idea. Man, that was a bummer.
Wow.
So then I started doing competitions where it's like you have to pay shipping, and I know that sounds like really cheap and like when you think like, oh, you're sending a symbol and you're making the people pay for shipping. Well, dude, if it's like fucking $400 to ship it, then then you got to pitch in or pay half or something. Shit.
No, we've got that covered in our disclaimer notes. It's no biggie. But there was a nice comment there for John. The dude's name is Dr. Matt Zappa. He's also another drummer here that streams on Twitch. Fantastic player. Tell John I've been a massive fan of Cephalic Carnage since coming up. But thanks for joining us, Matt. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
So, dudes, this has been absolutely outstanding. I'm glad it finally came together. I can't thank you all enough for taking the time out to be here and be part of this. Real quick, again, Shannon, when can we expect to hear the new material from you, and where can we find it? Because I don't know if are you on Instagram?
No, I have no social media.
So how can we find it, or can you just email me and I'll release it, or help you release it, or promo it, or whatever?
Yeah, definitely.
Just make some tapes and leave them in the woods.
Yeah.
Hide some cassette tapes. Hide some cassette tapes in the woods.
If it was found,
once we have like a better idea of like what's going to happen post like mastering, because with the black metal stuff, it's been just all self done. Like we wanted it to be like a low to no stress thing, like take our time. Everyone's been able to do it on their free time at home or wherever. And, other than, Mark mixing it, and then not entirely sure how we're going to release it. I still really want to at least release it on vinyl. But the Aerith stuff, I was just talking to Ken the other day about it. Not entirely sure. We might be a self-released kind of ordeal, but it would be definitely worth it to like round up, and have a conversation about it. The problem with labels, is well, there can be many problems, but expectations, right? If you're not touring, some labels are not interested because it's hard to, you can't, promote it well. And some labels want to own the recording. And if you record it yourself, why would you do that? And so, just kind of figuring it out, but definitely once we get something mastered, we would like to, for the black metal stuff, at least maybe like do some sort of a thing where we stream a track and, something like that, because we're all stoked about it. It's all been just a passion project, man.
Nice. Well, I'm excited to hear it, man. I'm really excited. There's more people in chat. When it's released, Sick Drummer will post up some links to where you guys can all find it. And Kevin, do you have any like contact info you want to talk about for if people are looking for you to record drum tracks for them? Or
just drummer Kevin Talley at gmail.com.
No, that works.
I mean, I have.
At least it wasn't Yahoo, dude.
I did have like Facebook, some Facebook stuff happening, but I don't really check it that much. So if you want to get in touch with me, just email me is best. Drummer Kevin Talley at gmail.com.
Thank you, Soli. My mod Soli, by the way, is who I mentioned earlier, who's in the UK, has made commands. So this whole evening, she's been posting up links to all of your socials in the chat for everybody while we've been talking. Thank you so much, Soli.
I'll check mine out.
Soli rocks. Well, if everybody else doesn't have any other questions, we'll call it, man. And just I'm humbled and honored, and thank you so much for doing this. It was so much fun.
Thanks for all the years of putting all of us under the spotlight, man. Seriously.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
It's been the biggest thing in like the extreme drumming community, for like the last 20 years. So,
my pleasure.
That was like the dream, before I started touring, was like, man, I got to get on that website. Like, how do I get on that site? That's when I made it, right? Amongst the other guys that are.
Well, you mentioned earlier about that, and after I started doing what I did, you got featured in Drum Magazine. I remember the interview, and I also remember in the issue of Drum where you were interviewed, there was a promo for the Nocturnal record, and the guy who wrote the review on it actually bashed it in the same fucking issue that they interviewed you.
I remember this.
I couldn't believe it. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Story before actually, because I said, the review of the album was like, the guy clearly hated metal.
Shit
I don't know
sandwich.
why they had him. You know what I mean? Because he was just like, it's just like drum machine nonsense, and you're just like, well, then why did you review it? Like,
and the guy who wrote it was a keyboard guy.
And,
I won't say his name, but I remember his name, and he's a keyboard guy.
You actually wrote them, and like went
not
to
enough
that,
keys
in defense. You were like, this is insulting. Why would you do that? And so
I did. Right.
Like, after that, I was like, man, I have no interest. Like. Drum Mag did two things in the back for me before, which is cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They didn't have to do that, which very, very glad to have that. But after that I was like, man, what's the point? Like, why do I want to be in this magazine if there's some shit on it? Like, the interview was fine, right? But yeah, man.
It was tragic irony. I couldn't believe when I read it. I'm like, whatever. Anyway, but yeah.
Sick Drummer Mag, I don't know if that came shortly after or what, but then you started doing the online mag. 2006
is when Sick Drummer started, and 2008 is when Sick Drummer magazine started in August. So this August will be 18 years with the magazine.
Yeah.
But man, if you guys want me to put any links to anything for you in the description of the YouTube video after, just shoot me a text. Any contact information you want in there, whatever. Please do keep in touch. Alan, anytime you got new stuff coming out, hit me up. I'm happy to help. Kevin, again, with your stuff. John, if you ever, get back
if I ever
into
start playing again.
Yeah. Well, I'll call you anyway just to shoot the shit, but,
Fly to San Antonio and help me do a kitchen.
That's funny.
And Shannon, hit me up when your record comes out. Hit me up.
You got it, buddy.
Thank you, everybody who watched, who commented. Thank you for the mods on Twitch. I've heard a bunch of noises in the background in the other room, so I know people were subscribing to my channel, following the channel. So thank you to everybody else. Thank you to all our drummer friends and non-drummer friends who stopped in tonight and chatted and made this a cooler experience for everybody. I appreciate you all. And on that note, I will just end this like I do every other stream and say, we are done.
Bye.
We'll see you all later. Stick on here for a second, guys. I'm going to end the stream now, and I'll talk to you for a second.